show.
Oh, wow. Now, hello.
Hello, I'm Anti-Derivative Jill, and this is Indefinite Lunch and Infinite Combinations number 49. Today we're reviewing the next original series episode in production order, This Side of Paradise. And today I'm
Again?
with pop culture curator
Yay.
and Scotty R37. Yes, again. Yeah, we started the show earlier.
Absolutely smashing.
But that's okay. We're doing it again, and this time you get to hear it. So we just keep encountering classic after classic, and this week is no exception with one of my favorite episodes. Just like I have been infected with the spores today, so that's probably why I messed up. But this.
Would you like to explain what's happened before we move on? Because we're giggling like schoolgirls, and everyone's like, "What happened?"
Well, what happened was I started the show without starting the show because I'm spore-addled, just like Spock and Jill Ireland. So this is one of my favorites because it's a Spock episode, absolutely instrumental to the growth of his character, showing what we all know now, that he controls some very intense emotions, and we get to see them really for the first time here, the cage notwithstanding. I have an affinity for this episode because of the themes, and it's so fantastic that this kind of episode would have worked either in a sci-fi setting or even a fantasy setting. And the question it asks is, how can you resist paradise when the benefits are direct health and happiness, and the only expense is that you'll never be your true self? Would you give up your ambitions and dreams just to be content with existence? In that way, this episode has some themes from Return of the Archons without actually just being a copy of that episode. So again, I would like to thank you for joining me today, Pop Culture Curator, and to remind everyone to make sure you're subscribed over there. We're going to review our final animated series episode on Monday.
Yes. And thank you for having me, Jill. Hello, everybody.
The counterclock incident. Yeah, hello. And so we'll have Baby Spock over there next Monday. But after that, I'm not sure what we'll be reviewing, if we'll be reviewing Lost in Space.
It looks like as of now, Lost in Space may be edging out the poll, so we may be covering that.
Sweet. Okay, that's really cool because I wanted to round out my science fiction. But I wouldn't have minded also watching more Batman.
Right, they're both good shows. Maybe I'll do Batman later on sometime in the future. But it looks like it's going to be Lost in Space, if that's okay.
That's wonderful.
Then I need to start doing my homework, so I will do that. I'll start getting to work.
Yeah, right. There's got to be some cool production information on that show.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple books I want to order. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, everybody, for voting. Those who voted.
Yeah, maybe we could coordinate on that and both get different books. That way we can pull from different information.
Okay. There's several. Yeah, there's several, definitely.
So, but also tonight, check out his channel because he's going to have a horror stream about Creepshow.
Creepshow, 1982, directed by George Romero, the classic written by Stephen King.
Yeah.
Please be there if you enjoy that sort of thing.
Yeah. And also tonight, Scotty's going to have his Batman
Capes, Cowls, and Crusaders. We're doing our Batman review of one of the greatest sequels of all time, The Dark Knight.
Yeah. And also, thank you guys for joining me here in the chat. We have Mega Cropper asking about Robert Meyer Burnett's toys. I don't really follow him and his toys unless I'm watching Robservations and he's just randomly talking about
I used to, but not anymore.
Like
yeah.
I don't ever see a Dilbert toy. So. Anyway.
I have a Dilbert tie.
Oh, well, yeah, you do like you have all the ties.
I have all the ties.
I know if Dilbert the comic strip, did they ever make it into an actual cartoon?
Yeah, they made it into an animated series. I'm sure that it's being canceled as well now, too.
Of course.
Well, unless you know the story, there are either sides, but it was somewhat inflammatory what was said.
Oh, really? I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, he said some controversial remarks. We'll keep it at that. Unfortunately,
and
he should have done that.
Okay,
Sorry.
well, I'll look that up later. Thank you.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Well, probably won't.
Okay.
Anyway. Hello to Bird of Prey 5. He says they're all rated A every episode.
Absolutely, Kapla, Bird of Prey 5, and I second that notion, and I totally agree, especially when it comes to TOS.
Yeah, he understands that. And then the Herc 130 says, "Let my office meetings begin. Hello, chat and unusual suspects." Yes, corporate thanks you. James Caserta says, "My mother, I could never tell her I loved her." And we were trying to figure out which episode that one was from, but I'm not too sure.
I think it was from The Naked Time.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was looking at something else. I didn't get a chance to say hello to Mega Cropper and everyone.
Yeah, Mega
Bird of Prey,
Cropper.
Kapla, Herc, James Caserta. Ahoy. Ahoy
Great
and
turnout.
hello.
Fantastic.
And also SP4H. Hail SP4H. Great to see you here.
Hello, SB4H.
Yes, I'm 8 minutes late.
Yeah, but 12 minutes early. So it all balances out.
And Apex asks if this is a repeat. No.
Somewhat.
Well, the episodes
Yeah.
that may have been shown once or twice, but this is a new stream.
This is a new stream. Our second intro. First one is showing.
We had a rehearsal.
Wow, you got some great people in the chat.
Yeah, right. Apex Comics is really great. He makes a lot of great stuff. He's an amazing artist.
Sean, I checked out your Enterprise build. That was awesome. I can't wait to see the next installment.
Yes, Sean, fantastic video. Everybody, please check that out.
You're the newest addition to my list of channels.
Same here. I can't wait to see what it's going to look like when you got
right here. I'll put it in the chat here.
And you are absolutely correct about the nacelles and the canon issues. There are going to be some people who say, nay, nay. But I think I'm looking forward to seeing the final product.
Hello,
I would say I'll take both. I'll take one with and without.
Matt G.
Hey, Matt G. And Apex Comics says Jill is in the clouds. How about Land of the Giants after Lost in Space?
Very likely. Land of the Giants, another classic Irwin Allen series, which I have.
Gorilla says, so all 46 of my votes counted. This is one of the few episodes where I feel compelled to go to a second account and vote. Because I don't get to vote. Bird of Prey 5 says the Dilbert animated show was on UPN and canceled when Enterprise was.
That's the 90s. Is that right?
2000.
Sean Carter says, all A's. The way to eat it has it.
Hey, brother.
And James Caserta says, Jill is not alive yet. Or it's surprising I'm alive because this planet is full of radiation. Gorilla's Random Thought says, yay, I'm 12 for 12 on copyright claims released on all 12 Walton episodes. I had to tell that.
So you got claims and you had them released, or you didn't get any claims at all, Gorilla?
It sounds like he got some claims, but he'll tell us.
If you got claims, Gorilla, you and I talk about that later before Gilligan's Island stream.
And here's the link to Sean Carter's channel, The Sci-Fi Model Guy. I just subscribed this morning. And also subscribe to Apex Comics. He's here in the chat. And also,
go ahead, Jill.
Oh no, you can go ahead.
Just a quick question for Sean Carter. Is it AMT or is it AMT Ertl? Because I know it was AMT and then Ertl bought him out. And they called him AMT Ertl for a while. Is it back to just AMT again? So that question is for Sean.
AMT, the model kits?
Yes.
Cool. I don't know.
The same ones that designed the original Galileo.
Also, remember to subscribe to Bird of Prey 5. He's got a Enterprise watch party tomorrow at 3 p.m. And then he has his bed life on Mondays and Fridays. And
very, very insightful, honest interviews on Picard.
Yes, he has great reviews. That was going to be my next one. Yeah, he has great reviews for that.
Oh, oops.
No, that's okay.
He's the only one that I know is that's being honest, right? He doesn't gloss over the plot holes
Thanks.
and everything else. He just straight up tells it like it is because he knows Star Trek inside and out. I mean, the man's knowledge is enviable.
I absolutely agreed. I really love his review. I do my best, but I can't stand up Bird there.
Now you're sounding like Spock. If you're going to get nasty, I'm going to leave.
So Jim says, okay, you are James. Sean Carter says, I believe it's AMT still. They have a division called Round 2.
Got it. Thank you, Sean.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And
Hogan's Heroes. Ooh, that would be a possibility. I love Hogan's Heroes as well. I'm a big fan of all that 60s stuff.
And so for some of the reference to production of these episodes, I share from the book Star Trek 365 by Paul M. Block and Terry J. Erdman. And the idea to use this particular text comes from my friend Raquel Briggs, who's featured on the Clobberin Times channel. So make sure to subscribe to Clobberin Times and also read her amazing short stories. Available on Kindle and paperback and hardback. Check those out. And now I need to bring up my PowerPoint. Let's bring up the episode. Here it is. And of course, I'm pulling from the remastered. This episode first aired on March 2nd, 1967. The episode was directed by Ralph Sinesky. And this is his first direction of the Star Trek episode. He'll be back to direct more episodes later. So he's one of the recurring directors we have. He was actually originally going to direct Devil in the Dark, but Gene L. Kuhn thought that'd be too tough for a first-time director. So he switched it with this episode. And the story by credit goes to Nathan Butler and DC Fontana, while the teleplay goes to DC Fontana. DC Fontana was given Butler's story that was essentially a hive mind story related to the drug uses of PCP and transformed it into one of the most beautiful character studies of Spock.
I thought it was also, and for those of you, it's the timing for any of you who watched my horror stream last week, this very heavily mirrors the Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes.
Even down to the pods traveling through space, happen to randomly land. So a lot of this was heavily influenced by Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
That makes sense because at one point the plant does move across the bridge just to get up close to Kirk later on because it wasn't in the shot and then suddenly it is in the shot.
Yeah, so we're assuming they can move. Little thing creeping around, right?
Well, DC Fontana really gets to Star Trek in a way that for me it sings. As a result of this episode, she earned the story editor position on the show. So that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. So this is one of the episodes that I love so much that I hope I get this right. So they're trying and failing to contact a colony of 150 men, women, and children. And not only do they not find any animals when they get there, they don't find any children either. So that nobody ever really addresses this. So I'm curious about it. It's one of the major questions I have about it. Spock says that that the Berthold rays, the radiation on the planet, are a recent discovery, and that living tissue disintegrates under it. So
Yeah, I thought that the ship's sensors should. I don't. Maybe it's just you're right. The ship's sensors should be able to read the life forms on the planet, but when they beam down, they act like they're surprised when they see the colonists are still alive.
Oh, the science on this episode is all way off.
yeah, that's a good question. Why doesn't the ship's sensors show that the people on the planet are alive? Why does the colony itself decide to land on this planet with this deadly radiation?
How do the crops exist without insects to pollinate?
Yeah, that's well, you know what though? At least they they mention it. They mention
Nope.
that that's ridiculous. No,
Yep.
they do. They do. They say it. They say, "Oh,
They
wow,
say
there are no insects here." And
right.
so they know that it's wrong.
Yeah. So that would be the lampshading on the side. No, the character of this episode is fantastic, but the science is absolutely
It's
from
funny.
from the ship operations to the science on the planet. I don't understand any of it because it doesn't make any sense. But the character stuff is amazing.
The only explanation.
Yeah, the only thing I can guess, maybe the planets don't need to be pollinated, or they have a different pollination process, perhaps.
Yeah,
but
it would
they
have
don't.
to be kind of alien pollination, but they don't explain it.
Yeah, they
Headcanon.
don't explain it.
Mm-mm. The only explanation for not seeing children is the fact that the colonies are broken up into segments of about 50 people each. So maybe all the kids were in another settlement we don't get to see.
Or if you wanted to go darker on that, any procreation, the fetuses not being exposed to the spores would disintegrate in the womb.
Yes, that's also possible. That children cannot. Yeah.
Well, yeah. What's interesting is the spores
But
supposedly
they
have a
don't.
healing. The spores
Mhm.
can heal. So how would that affect a pregnancy? Does that mean it would eliminate it? Would it consider that like a problem? I
You
don't
know,
I
know.
think
something like that comes up in TNG, right?
yes, it
Yeah.
does.
And
In
somebody loses their baby.
yeah, in
I
all
just-
good things, when they are healed, I think Alyssa Agawa loses her child because of the healing factor of the time.
Hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah. So yeah, the science parts of the episode are questionable. They don't answer certain questions, so you have to use a lot of headcanon.
Right. But we are being
to
honest, and we are
believe
willing
it.
to point them out instead of glossing
Yeah.
over them.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, good, definitely.
no, we are glossing over, but it's okay because the character stuff is so strong.
Anyway, now that the colony has been there for 3 years, Starfleet's finally going to check on them, only because the planet wasn't emitting any radio signals. Kirk takes a six-person landing party, including Spock, McCoy, Sulu, and 2 others, DeSalle and Kelowitz. Don't ask me which is which. Yeah.
DeSalle is in the Gold Command. He was, you'll remember him from Squire of Gothos.
Yes. Great. Thank you.
I wanted to add, according to DC Montana, the episode had to be seriously rewritten because Jerry Soule had not quite gotten it right. Roddenberry told her, if you can rewrite this script, you can be my story editor.
Yeah.
So she thought about it, eventually realized that the story wasn't really about Sulu, but about Spock, Leonard Nimoy, who was initially taken aback when he was told that they were working on a love story for Spock. He later felt that the episode turned out to be a lovely story. So this is what officially got her the job as story editor.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I really love that. And that's also the only person who didn't love it was Jerry. And that's why he changed his name to Butler.
Yeah, he wanted to. Yeah, in fact, it's a completely different plot from what he originally had written.
Mm-hmm. So Spock is so sure that the radiation on the planet is so severe that no one should be alive. And yet, of course, they only find out when they get on the planet that the people are alive. So there they are. Pop culture curator Apex Comics wants you to DM him when you cover Land of the Giants or me. And he'd love to be on that panel. It's
Absolutely,
his favorite
Apex Comics.
Allen show.
All right, yes. Thank you, Apex.
Neat.
A lot of love for Irwin Allen. You don't hear about it every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And James Caserta says Trek is a high mind concept cocaine like show. Period. Well, cocaine. It's definitely high concept cerebral show, but
It's a stimulant for the noggin.
I will accept that because of today's episode things. Apex says there was a DJ Fontana who played drums for Elvis Presley.
Yeah, I think it might be a different person.
Hello to JD Lewis.
And I do have to sadly say, all the starting conventions I went to back in the day, I never met Dorothy Fontana. She wasn't. I don't know if she went to convention. I'm sure she did, but I wasn't lucky enough to meet her.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
That would have been one I really would have. Yeah, I would have been excited about that.
But you've met more than I have though. James Caserta says not lying for Vulcans, outlaw generationally or mythological. I don't understand the question. Yeah, you know what? I thought about Wrath of Khan too, Admiral Teague, when he says Admiral Kirk never bothered to check on our progress. Where have we heard that before? But this time it's Captain Kirk.
Everybody blames everything on poor Kirk.
Is one of the landing party none other than Alan Thicke, father of blurred line singer Robin Thicke? What?
Long as we got each other. It's growing pains.
I'm glad you know what he's talking about.
I know Alan Thicke. Good Canadian boy.
Matchy says he sent a super chat, but it didn't show up in the chat.
I don't think you can. Okay. I think you have to be monetized to get a super chat, don't you?
Well, okay, yeah, but I have a Stream Elements tip jar. And no, I didn't get it here. I don't see it.
Super chats will be coming someday. With Jill's popularity, the way she's doing, I'm sure it won't be long.
Yeah. No, but until then, I have...
Well, and don't forget to hit the like and the share. Jill just got to 350 subscribers. And so for that to continue to skyrocket, we should spread the love of all the things, Jill.
Yeah, all the things.
She deserves it.
Okay, so then they go into this comfy-looking house. Oh, and look at the title card.
Comfy-looking house. Can I cover something really quick about the...
Sure.
According to director Ralph Sinesky, the original schedule was that the first 3 of the 6 shooting days were to be spent on location, shooting at the Golden Oak Ranch, also known as the Disney Ranch. Then the remaining 3 days indoors filming the Enterprise scenes. However, after 2 days of shooting outdoors, Jill Ireland fell ill and couldn't appear on the set. It was in question if she had measles or not. Sinensky decided to film all the farm scenes, which didn't contain Layla's character, and then returned to the studio for Enterprise interiors in the remaining of the day, and hoped the actress's return. Ireland appeared the following day. As it turned out, she did not have measles, just the flu. However, the crew couldn't return to the Disney Ranch as it was already booked for another production. They decided to film the remaining scenes at Bronson Canyon, where they have the famous Batcave. Thank you, Jill.
Ooh, neat. That's great. Good information about... Okay, so they had to switch which parks they were filming at.
Yes.
And thank you to Matt G. He just took $1. Sorry, Jill, was late. She was watching Twilight. The Twilight
Zone. Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone.
Sparkly vampires.
Here.
Yeah, no, man, if there's only one book I might burn, it would be.
Oh, come on. Even
I'm not kidding. It's disgusting. If you read that book, it is like it's like PG erotica, but it's not very good. And when you read it, you never get lost in the actual setting of the book. You're completely outside of it the entire time. It is. I'd
still rather watch Twilight than watch Discovery.
Oh, you're talking about the Twilight book too?
So you just like teenagers staring at each other
longingly and topless werewolves.
Anyway, I really hate Twilight.
Okay.
Apex Comics says Jill should be monetized. I thought she had 1.5k subs by now. I'm shocked. No, I don't. So Gorilla's Random Thought says, Jill's about to pass me up. I better pump up a bunch of shorts. No, you're doing really great with the shorts. I need to do shorts. I'm much lazier than you. Apparently I can't get the shorts out.
Yeah, no need to compete here either. We all move at our own pace. If anything, I've been seriously lagging on mine.
And JD Lewis says, fun fact, Frank Overton Elias. Okay, so who plays Elias in this episode? Who previously co-starred on 12 O'Clock High, passed away very shortly after the episode aired.
I did not know
Right.
that,
He also
JD.
starred as a sheriff on To Kill a Mockingbird, and he did 2 episodes of The Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm.
Among many, many, many other things.
But it was written by a woman. Well, so was this episode. I love this episode, but I do not love Twilight.
You can hear all about it on our new podcast. I hate Twilight. Yeah.
It sounds like you have a big Twilight fan in the chat.
Okay, so let's go into the house before I...
Let's have some tea.
Yeah, let's have some... Well, yeah, there's at least some teapots. And where we meet Layla Kalomi.
There she is, with a halo light.
Yes,
they have a light behind her and in front to give her that halo look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do that to the women.
And you guys know about the history with her, and you guys know about the history with her and Charles Bronson, right?
Yeah.
They had naked time?
Yes. Well, I'll be covering that here. They were seeing each other at this point. At this point, she had dumped her husband, David McCallum, for Charles Bronson. And Charles Bronson was on the set during the filming of this episode. Leonard Nimoy felt very awkward doing the kissing scenes and stuff like that with Charles Bronson staring at him. Anybody who knows what Charles Bronson looks like, that's totally understandable.
Spock had a death wish.
Apparently. Spock remembers her from his past. So they first met 6 years ago, where she fell in love with him. About her, the book says, many of the female characters who graced the Star Trek screen were given hairstyles piled into bizarre architectural configurations and garments that left little to the viewer's imagination. This side of Paradise's Lila Kalomi, as portrayed by Jill Ireland, was a noteworthy exception to the rule. Her beauty spoke of a different feminine ideal, the nature girl, refreshingly free of artifice, garbed in practical yet chic overalls. Lila was smart, gentle, and self-sufficient, but apparently not opposed to communal living, given the right group of people. Even the camera adored her. Director of photography Jerry Finnerman painterly hand-cast her in a radiant glow that seemed to highlight each individual strand of her golden hair. The stoic Spock somehow managed to resist Lila prior to his exposure to the spores, but he made up for lost time after he inhaled. According to DC Fontana, who reconceived the story that had been credited to Nathan Butler, a pseudonym used by science fiction author Jerry Soule, Lila was initially conceived as a woman of color. She was supposed to be Hawaiian, and she was going to have a relationship with Sulu.
Hence the name Layla, yeah.
Scripts, however, typically go through many iterations, and ultimately it was Spock, not Sulu, who wound up being paired with... Is it Layla or Layla? Layla.
I think it's Layla, because Layla is usually L-Y-L-A, but I could be wrong.
No, you're right.
I just will know... Well, I could be wrong, though. If anybody knows in the chat, you feel free to correct me.
Well, I just watched this episode.
Yeah, they say Layla several times. Got me on my knees, Layla. Begging, darling, please, Layla.
Then they cast Jill Ireland, an amazingly beautiful woman, to play Layla, says Fontana, recalling the delicate-featured, blue-eyed, blonde actress. I thought, well, some Hawaiians may look like her, Fontana jokes. And in early drafts, according to the Star Trek Compendium, the spores were actually sentient beings who spread around a communal intelligence. This allowed to, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that would have made a heck of a lot more sense. But keep going.
Yeah, it would have. This would have allowed telepathy between those infected. And it turns out that the spores didn't actually want to infect people unless they wanted to be, which also would have been a great point to establish with or without the sentience is whether or not these people would choose to live here.
Yeah, and apparently in the original script, the plans for the spores were in a cave. But it was DC Fontana said, well, if that was the case, then all they had to do was avoid the cave.
Yeah,
So
right.
it was her idea to bring them out in the open, right? Which makes sense.
Definitely. The original script method to recover from the spores was either alcohol or having the right blood type. So at first, it was going to be just Kirk shoving some alcohol into Spock.
Right. Well, and I'm glad that once again Spock was not immune to it. A lot of times he's immune to the things that the other people get affected by, but I'm glad he was not in this episode.
Me too. That's a good point. We had someone else who was immune to it, but for a different reason. That made sense.
Yes.
And so, let's see. Did I? No, I didn't.
Did you?
Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, so Gorilla's Random Thought says, this episode is a huge F because I've watched through 6 times and I still don't remember this episode and was sober. Half those times.
Watch it again, Gorilla. Watch it again. You'll remember. You probably think that all this is some lovey. When I was a little kid, I thought I was just some lovey-dovey episode, and it was. When I got older, I respected it. It's a really, I would say, in the top tier of the Star Trek episodes.
What changed your mind?
Well, when I was a kid, I still thought girls had cooties, so I just wasn't into the kissing. But I got once I got a little older, I started to respect and appreciate the episode.
How? What changed your mind?
I started watching this when I was a little kid.
Yes, but as you got older, I'm just curious what changed your mind.
Puberty.
Okay, fair enough. Good answer.
All right. To put it nicely, right. Obviously, this set is screaming Western. So obviously, they barely redressed it for this episode because it looks like straight out of the 1800s.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the colony has this thing where they're kind of rejecting technology as they're as they're settling the planet. And
even though they did travel there somehow, right?
Right. Where's the spaceship? Like
right.
there's a lesser episode of Deep Space Nine that is not as good as this. That at least they use a spaceship. They use a spaceship kind of like a house, and they put people in prison in these little crates. It's not really a good episode, but at least they say what happened to the ship.
Right, and Layla even tells Spock in this episode, "I've never been on a starship."
Mm-hmm.
But they make differentiations between spaceships and starships. Like I think it's even with Caridian, the lady Caridian. She says, "Well, I've been on spaceships before, but never a starship." So there is something more advanced and more prestigious about a Federation starship.
Okay, maybe like a colony freighter or something.
Yeah, something like that.
And the kissing in this episode does not top the kissing Dax in Gorilla's Random Thoughts.
Oh, I think it does. I think Jill Island was extremely hot.
Very beautiful. Yeah, no, I think Spock's kissing was very gentle and sweet. So I don't know. It's all your preference. And James Caserta says hippie episode was an anti-tech episode. Yeah.
They always are, yeah. Of course.
They had only the contents of those cargo containers to sustain them, says Sean Carter. So Sulu's wandering around looking for something that isn't right to explain how everyone survives, but he misses seeing this big weird alien plant.
Well, and I like the comment that Sulu makes, and he's like, I know so much about farms that I wouldn't know anything wrong if it were 4 feet away from me, as presented here.
And you think he would say meter, but well.
They sort of interspose both metric and imperial measurements throughout Star Trek.
Yes.
And they do in Canada as well. We measure a lot of things in metric, and our height and weight are still in imperial.
And you'll recognize a lot of these sets from Gunsmoke and Bonanza and many other shows at the time.
Oh, yeah, cool. And Matt G just tipped $1. He says, was telling my friend that prequels are hard to do using Enterprise and TOS. A show in 2002 that goes to a 1966 show is disjointed. A prequel to TOS should look and feel like Forbidden Planet. Yeah,
that would be a good idea.
Definitely. I agree. Although I really like Enterprise for lots of things. That makes sense. Oh, and Sean Carter says that was supposed to be read in Khan's voice. Scotty, can you read this?
They only had the contents of the cargo containers to sustain.
Thank you.
Something like that.
Yeah, very good. And so they notice there are no animals. So that's that scene. I love this. I love this episode. The scene between Elias and Lila, where she says she met Spock and fell in love with him 6 years ago, is the scene that reminds me of Return of the Archons. Sorry, Icons. They're not exactly a hive mind precisely, but when Elias says, would you like him to stay with us now? To be one of us? That's the part of the show. That's the part of the episode that shows the creepy aspect, the invasion of the body snatchers thing that pop culture was mentioning. So a little bit of the original script kind of feels present. And it's a good setup. Here's the best line of this interaction. Elias asks, did you love him? And Layla says, if I did, it was important only to myself. And so this is a great episode where we hear again that Spock has no emotions to give, but this episode shows that to not really exactly be the case.
But she is pining for him.
Yes.
Now here you would think that McCoy's tricorder would detect the spores in this man.
Right. He's conducting these medical exams and finding them to be in absolutely perfect condition in every regard. He doesn't, like you said, he doesn't find any evidence of fungus. And so then meanwhile...
Fungus among us.
Yes, nice. And hello to Lenrod. Lenrod is here. And
hey, Lenrod.
Popper says that I should only read $50 plus super chats.
Oh, no. Jill's not one of those big channels that do that. No way.
No, I know, but it is funny. No, I'm not like that, no. I mean, I almost read all the chats. Almost. Lenrod
we
says,
respect the chat here. We love the chat.
We do. Lenrod says, I don't know if it was the camera angle there, but the girl has lazy eye in the pic.
I did notice that.
Admiral Teague says, do we ever see this kind of sustained happiness again from Spock? It's similar to Kirk's unburdened happiness in Paradise Syndrome. Coincidence? Well, yeah, Kirk really loses his mind in that episode. Matt G says, yeah, $50 super chats. Friday night shows. No, that's not going to happen, Matt G.
I thought... So and I had to mention where he was talking about Spock and his happiness. Yes. I felt that Spock was happy in Star Trek The Motion Picture after he melded with Beecher and he came back and he held Kirk's hand. I thought not only was he understanding the feel of human emotion, but he was happy because they had what Beecher did not.
Yes, this feeling. Yes, he definitely did. He realized that purging all emotion was not for him. He needed some of that he needed to retain his humanity, even though he rejected it wholly and chose Vulcan's side. But
right, and if you watch it while he's holding Kirk's hand, he's smiling.
Yeah, but that he's missing something by dismissing it completely.
Yes.
As Deidre was. And so that's why Mr. Decker merges with Beecher and they live happily ever after or something.
So, somewhere.
So meanwhile, back in the episode, Spock,
some sort of seventh heaven. Never mind.
Well, I think didn't Spock mention that he wanted to move beyond this plane of existence, or Beecher? I mean, and I think they meant like different dimensions. Because Beecher already known everything on this level, and he wanted to move beyond, but he couldn't without the human emotion because he had the lack of basically not believing, or he only knew he couldn't take fantasy, or he didn't have the scope of learning something new. I guess that's why they had to meld in the first place. But beyond that, I think they had to move into a different plane of existence. I think is where Beecher went.
Thank you.
But I could be wrong.
Sounds good. No, that sounds great to me. Meanwhile, Spock reports no life on the planet except for colonists and some plants. The expedition brought food, but they're gone. And so, like Pop Culture said earlier, this was filmed at Malibu State Park. But he also said it was filmed somewhere else, too.
Bronson Canyon, where Bronson Cave is, yes.
Cool.
Also known, well, and Malibu Park was also known as also the Disney Ranch at the time.
Yeah. And Elias is explaining that this soil will grow anything we plant in it. It's a perfect world. So we keep hearing that word, perfect. This planet is perfect. We have a moderate climate, moderate rains all year round. It gives us what we need. It is perfect. And here, McCoy reports a major change in Sandoval's medical record. He used to have a scar on his lungs from pneumonia when he was a kid, and he had an appendectomy. Now the scar on his lungs is gone, and his appendix has returned.
That's why it's too bad scientifically they should have taken those plants with them on the Enterprise, because they were for a healing method. They could put a lot of doctors out of business. All they have to do is let the plants do the repairing, and then just argue with the people to cure them when they're done.
Yeah, exactly. They could have made this a kind of health planet. Like you come here for a week, but you're forced to leave. Like you sign something that
right,
says
especially if you're
forced to
terminally
leave.
ill. I would love to go there if I was terminally ill. I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, cancer or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it doesn't, in terms of stuff that may have been taken and then the healing factors of them been processed or synthesized to assist in the medicine, even though it wasn't addressed in the episode.
True. Mm-hmm. And also, if you do come to that planet, it's got to be for a short time because of the Berthold rays, because we are told that they're dangerous at us, I guess, after a certain amount of time.
Yeah, that's why I say a week, because after it's safe for a week. So so just and you're protected by the spores for a week. So you go there for a week and get healed, and then you leave.
Oh, could have done wonders for Pike.
Right. He'd definitely take the risk. And hello, hey, Canadian Spider-Man's here. Hi.
Hey, Canadian Spider-Man. Good to see you, brother.
Ahoy.
He says, greetings from Mexico City Airport. Glad to have caught you again. Great episode. It raises a lot of societal questions.
True.
Airport, are you leaving? Myself. Are you leaving, buddy? Are you leaving? Like Zoom flying away back to the Canada?
Oh yeah, are you going to Canada? Going home? And Sean Carter says, little known deleted line on this episode from McCoy. It accurately recorded my lack of tonsils and those 2 broken ribs I had once, as well as that case of syphilis Nancy Crater gave. Was that before or after she was a salt monster? So Mega Cropper says Flat Earth will be a cash cow for Jill's show. But why would I? Okay, I don't know why I would have a episode about that,
Yeah, I don't
except to
understand
say,
It'd be a
except to
short
say
one.
the
We'd say
Earth.
it's not
Yeah,
true,
right.
right?
It's not true. It's the Earth is
Not
round.
true.
Aristophanes or some Greek guy measured the Earth with just sticks and shadows to show that the Earth was round and figured out the circumference of the Earth thousands of years ago.
And any airplane pilot
Mhm.
will tell you.
They're in on it.
Theirs has been flown around many times.
Airplane pilots are in on it. It's a conspiracy.
Yeah,
There's an
they go
ball.
to the end and they go to the edge. They go to the edge and they turn around, right? So 360 or 180 degree turn back, right?
Yeah, I was once shocked to find one flat earther at a Star Trek convention. That was amazing.
That would have been an interesting perspective.
Yeah. Lenrod says he won the Nobel Prize for inventing the artificial appendix. Oh, wait, who did? What? Oh, McCoy, probably. And so Canadian Spider-Man says, I'm usually out and about during the day. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nice. So I guess maybe just near area of the airport.
Yeah, it is unusual to see Canadian Spider-Man here. It's so wonderful. And
awesome. It's a good time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And as Herc 130 says, Canadian Spider-Man is the man. And Lenrod says, cats are proof the earth is round. If it was flat, they would have knocked everything off of it by now.
That is the perfect explanation, and I will run with that from now on, Lenrod. Thank you.
Cavatino Calvaryman says, wait a minute, this planet has healing properties? Too bad a certain son of a Starfleet couple couldn't have brought him. Oh, right.
Oh, you mean Riker?
We talk about that on...
I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised actually.
On Fridays. Yeah. Adam Teague says, check your tip jar. If mine showed up, I missed it. Then again, I am dyslexic. It seems like my tip jar is kind of lagging, so it will show up.
Well, it's got more in it than mine does.
Yeah. Canadian Spider-Man says, hey, folks in the chat, if you like this kind of thing, then please consider subscribing to this channel and help Jill grow this channel. Yes,
indeed.
Please do. I can't wait to get to 400. That'll be fun.
It will be.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and yes, and I moderate on Doomcock's chat, just as Canadian Spider-Man is saying. I beat him to the sex bots almost every time. It's true. And so in the episode, McCoy says, "No, I thought of that and tested it on myself. It accurately recorded my lack of tonsils and those 2 broken ribs I had once. It did not record the scar tissue on Sandoval's lungs, but it did record a healthy appendix where one was supposedly removed." So Spock is discovering that not only does the planet have no animals, but it doesn't have any bugs, which makes no sense in such a lush and agriculturally rich environment. So, yeah, then we get kind of a sexist.
Well, what's interesting is you can see by looking at Layla is it looks like the sun is at the top left, but if you look at the background behind her, it's obviously in the right because you can see the shadow of the tree. So I guess this planet has 2 suns.
Oh,
yeah. There wouldn't be any shadow under that tree there if the shadow was on her right, but it doesn't matter.
No one's told me that there aren't 2 suns. Spock says, I have never understood the female capacity to avoid a direct answer to any question. And so, of course, I would have preferred that statement if he would have said human. Because that's a human proclivity that could be true from either sex. So I love this episode, but that line is not why. But the rest of the scene is beautiful when she tells Spock that she missed him and that she sees beyond the side of him that he shows everyone else. But Spock says, emotions are alien to me. I am a scientist. And Layla says, someone else might believe that. Your shipmates, your captain, but not me. Come. And she reaches out her hand to lead him somewhere, but he won't take it. He only follows her.
And that's why I think that there's, like, when Spock does make that dig about, I don't understand the female proclivity, I think that's just sort of a logical dig towards Layla's emotionality.
Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then I'm not too, I wasn't too mad about it, but, you know.
No, I understand, though. I saw that and I was like, that's all right. But I sort of waved it off as being Spock, just being, you still don't understand, do you? You don't get it.
Right. But really, he kind of does. We learn that underneath he really does love her.
Absolutely.
Then Kirk announces that Starfleet just suddenly and out of absolutely nowhere has decided that now, after 3 years, they want to evacuate everyone from the settlement without regard for report or opinion on the matter from the settlement.
Because the Berthold rays, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. But it seems a little rash considering they don't really know the situation. So, of course, the colonists are against it. But I don't know. Yes, it's because of the radiation, but if the radiation were that deadly, they'd be dead already. I don't know. We don't really get much of an explanation about Starfleet's reasoning here, so I'm just
did they say that the
bit.
rays have always been there, or they just recently started because of some event?
Oh, no, they were... I thought that they were always present.
They were always there, and as far as I know, the colonists had to have known about them.
Okay, and so maybe the point is that the plants heal, or since with the plants healing you constantly, the rays don't affect you. Maybe that's how the colonists are still alive.
Well, that's exactly how it's explained in the episode, and the plants got there by feeding off of the Berthold rays. And that's how they ended up getting there before the settlers would have got there, because the settlers would have got off, been affected by the spores, and then they continue to thrive. So, yeah, everything that is explained in the episode says that they're always Berthold rays, always the spores, then the colonists.
Right. So if you're on the planet, theoretically, you can live forever as long as you're under the influence of the plants.
Yes. Maybe?
In constant stagnation, yeah.
I'm not sure because
but
they
constant healing. Sorry, go ahead, Jill.
You know, I'm not quite sure because it's not exactly a fountain of youth because people are still aging.
Right.
So
there would still be.
We're still aging, but they say, I mean, it can even repair missing limbs, even, but as far as repair of faculties.
Yeah, whether or not the spores make you immortal is not addressed at all.
Well, is aging considered a fallacy?
Mm-hmm.
Considered a which?
Well, something that needs to be disease or malady, right? Maybe the plants don't affect age. Maybe they heal the body from sickness or illness.
Well, and even in today's science, the degradation of human cells is something that's being studied to extend lifetimes.
Yes, because that's the idea of aging. Your cells copy and copy over and over again until the copy wears out.
Yep.
So who knows? I don't know. Canadian Spider-Man says, not back in Kanukistan, Canada for another 6 weeks. It's still winter up there. Oh, okay.
It certainly is.
Smart.
And Lenrod says, the porn bots are our friends. They let us know when the stream is on the internet's radar.
I agree, Lenrod.
Admiral Teague says, me and the guys from Saving Star Trek use our replicators to make non-addictive spores. They're much like regular spores, but the effects are easily dismissed. So they heal you, but they don't make you euphoric? Or they make you euphoric, but they don't make you lose your ability to comprehend your own desires to succeed? I'm going to need more information, but later. Canadian Spider-Man says, what a good day for TOS Star Trek.
Yes, absolutely.
And Lenrod agrees she has a lazy eye. And Mega Cropper says, It's that
gay fellowship I've been worried about. They're not gay. They're hobbits.
Who?
Yeah,
Who
right.
talking
They're
about?
Hobbits.
The hobbits. Yeah, hobbits are hobbits. They're not one for adventure. They want to stay home and chill.
True.
Canadian Spider-Man says, "I hate those little bastards at Cavatino California." And James Caserta says he's a sex bot. I guess he means he's fully functional.
Yeah.
Canadian Spider-Man says, "You're just fine as long as you don't start spamming the chat with links." One sex bot is the limit here, though, I would think. Yes, only James Caserta is allowed. Spock is defensive and afraid of his emotions, that his emotions will take over a variable like Layla in the mix, and that Forbidden Planet is better than Enterprise. I love them both. They're both very different.
Mm-hmm.
But Forbidden Planet is awesome. I did do a live stream on that on a Friday, one of my Fridays. And Dalek says, this may be Star Trek, but it's still a product of its time. So Spock's comment doesn't bother me.
Hello,
Yeah,
Dalek.
that's
Good to
good.
see you.
Hey, Dalek.
Yeah, we could all use that planet. That plant. I would love to have it.
Haven't you noticed that your boobs have been firming up? Not that we care for such a thing in this day and age.
Oh, you know what? This entire time I didn't even think of insurrection. This is a way better insurrection.
At least insurrection makes sense scientifically to a certain extent.
Oh no. So, yeah, but no, this one's more fun.
I'm okay with the character stuff, but the science doesn't make a lick.
I can explain it away because it's so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Canadian Spider-Man says, "Hey, that sucks. Damn them indeed." To Admiraltique. Oh, Hobbits cost me my original Twitter. Oh yeah, that's right. You got banned from Twitter because of Hobbits. Anyway.
Hobbits.
Oh.
Meanwhile, smelling the flowers.
Meanwhile, yeah, Layla leads Spock somewhere, and when he asks questions, all she says is, "Its basic properties and elements are not important. What is important is it gives life, peace, love." And Spock says, "What you're describing was once known in the vernacular as a happiness pill. And you, as a scientist, should know that's not possible."
And I did like the direction and the framing of the just before this shot. There's a shot with Layla on one side and Spock on the other, and the plant in the middle, sort of showing the visual divide between the two, which I thought was an interesting creative choice. It was really well directed.
Oh, I wish I would have got that scene then.
It's fine.
You described it perfectly, though. Right, special.
Right, the Ruth theme from Arena. Shore Leave, sorry.
Yeah, Shore Leave. That's Gerald Fried, right?
Yeah, Gerald Fried did the theme that you're hearing during this scene.
Great. And so Spock, he clutches his head and he falls in pain. He's suffering because he is all of a sudden losing the tight control he has on his emotions. And Layla is appalled because she didn't want to hurt Spock, but he explains it is because he is different from her. Finally, the pain ceases and Spock has lost control. And Layla says, now, you belong to all of us, and we to you. There's no need to hide your inner face any longer. We understand.
And that's why I think it would have been a little bit more beneficial if there was something that had like communication between the spores or something that connected the colonists together or anybody who had been infected, because just getting infected with the spores, I don't understand how that would rob them of their ambition.
Yeah,
well, I think that's how they were taking a jab at people on drugs, because people on drugs tend to lose ambition. They just want to sit around, and do nothing and just get high.
Well, and that's not necessarily, but it's
but that's a common running belief. is what I'm saying.
Well, and at the time, more specifically, absolutely. But I just, in terms of the allegory for the show, it would have made more sense if the motivation to be demotivated and just maintain on the planet would have been explored a little bit more than just being infected by the spores and saying, okay, let's picnic.
It would have made more sense with the kind of hive mind kind of thing that they seem to be going for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But since they're not doing that, it reminds me more of Brave New World. Except in that case, you can choose whether or not to take the soma. And
well, in the original outline for the story, which of course was, as we said earlier, was heavily changed. Once you were affected by the spores, it was supposed to give you a telekinetic ability where you were in communication with the other people that were affected, and that was one
for
of the things that
sure
was removed.
But if it doesn't show up on screen, then it's just not. It's not
Right.
part of the story.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why, obviously, the original writer, he was so upset he even changed his name and used a certain or a different name for the end. Yes.
I'm just speaking in universe is all, not from a
Right,
particular
there was-
standpoint.
I do wonder why
I know.
DC Fontana removed that aspect. I always do like learning about new sentient life, and it would have been cool to see the spores presented that way. But Spock then says, I love you. I can love you. And so he says, I can love you, meaning that he's loved her before. He just wasn't allowed to.
Right. I think he's just now realizing that he's
controlled
able
it.
to. Yeah.
Well, the restrictions of his Vulcan stoicism has been ripped
Right.
away.
So I think he's like almost talking to himself as much as he is to her.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we got Captain Kirk. He wants to evacuate everybody. He's all business this episode. He has a captain's log supplemental. We have been ordered by Starfleet Command to evacuate the colony on Omicron 3. However, the colony leader, Elias Sandoval, has refused all cooperation and will not listen to any arguments. So, Captain Kirk is busy trying to evacuate the colonists to Starbase 27 when he realizes that Spock is missing. He's looking at the clouds with Layla, seeing their beauty for the first time, which explains my background today. I changed it from stars to clouds.
And good thing they were able to find that jumpsuit for Spock. I guess it was there somewhere.
Yeah. Also, for the first time, Spock is wearing this green jumpsuit, which we won't see until later in Spock's brain.
Cool. I forgot about that. Good catch.
Yeah. So I guess
Now,
yeah.
Now I have a question. Why is the Enterprise attempting to relocate the colonists? Because at this point in the story, or at least recently, they had did they communicate with Starfleet once they discovered that there were colonists there, and then Starfleet ordered them to relocate them? Because as they go down, find the colonists, scan them, find they're in perfect health, then they say, well, we have to move you. And it's like, well, why? They're fine.
They do not explain it.
Right. At
Okay.
that point, I don't know. But I don't think that they showed them contacting Starfleet after they found out that people were healthy.
Well, and I was wondering if it was in a captain's log or something.
No, they don't. And by the time that Kirk decides to try to contact Starfleet, Uhura has already sabotaged communications. So he can't.
Darn her.
Darn spores.
And she does, she does it because of the spores' influence. So,
Right.
and she does it so perfectly.
Which
And
also,
it's funny because she's almost laughing when she says it. It's kind of funny when she says it because that's something Uhura would never do.
Of course, she would never do that. So it was a lot of fun for the characters in this, for the actors to be able to act outside of character in this episode, and it's also kind of funny.
And then again, why would Uhura be motivated to sabotage the communications if there weren't some underlying sort of telepathy going on? Like, again, there's no reason for them to cut off communication with Starfleet just because they're infected with the Joy. It doesn't make sense. Unless
they're afraid the Joy's going to end if Starfleet is onto it.
Which is, and that is a possible explanation, but it is never referred to, explained, inferred, anything.
No, it's not.
I know. This is a great character episode, but all of the science at every step of the way doesn't make any sense.
Well, No, but the humor is really great.
Uh-huh.
You
Not arguing that. I think you're under the influence of the spoilers.
I might be. You know the humor I'm talking about if you've seen this one, where Spock is very flippant. You can hear, just some slight irritation in his voice, as if he's being bothered and he can't be bothered to be bothered.
Right. Which upsets Captain Kirk all the more.
Yes.
I completely sympathize with Captain Kirk in this episode.
Yeah, since Spock leaves the communicator open when they drop it. Oh, I love this scene. It's so cute.
I do like in the 23rd century, the natural response to technology not working is to tap it. Just be like, tap it, tap it, tap it, tap it. Well, I don't know. It worked. It's working.
It's just the same. Nothing's going to change in that regard. We're going to keep hitting technology all the way into the 23rd century.
And Spock's wearing lace-up boots for some reason.
And so, yeah.
So when he changed into that suit, he also changed his boots.
I'll be right back.
Absolutely. Yeah, that does make sense in terms of it's a whole new uniform as well.
It is. I think the reason why they wear those lace-up boots is because they have better tread. Because the shoes they wear for the show are flat and they're probably very slippery on that grass and that terrain.
Yes. I do enjoy. I've always wanted in terms of the cosplay. You can get the uniforms fairly simply. You can even sort of fashion your own. But when it comes to the flare pants and the boots, that's the more difficult aspect of the costume to recreate.
Well, some military branches did use the flare pants where they tucked it into their boot like that.
Well, and the flare pants tucked in seemed to be more of a Rathacon forward uniform situation, but I think they just sort of slightly flare out on the original series. We've lost Jill momentarily, but I'm sure she'll be back. She is quite the competent communications officer.
Perhaps maybe some technical difficulty.
Who knows? We can only suppose. Yep, it looks like we do have mild technical difficulty. Pop Culture Curator, should we go through the chat a little bit?
All right. Well, if you have a way of doing it, I don't have any control.
Oh, wait, no. I was just asking, but
she's backing away.
And backing away.
Away and back. Hello.
Oh, there she is. Hello again. Jill, can I share some still? I have a couple. I have a still I'd like to share.
Yeah, this is a great time because I have to figure out where I am.
All right, it does relate to this scene here.
Sure, absolutely.
A little behind the scenes. This is from the book Inside Star Trek by Herb Solow and Bob Justman.
Oh, right. Oh, that's great. What a lovely picture.
It is. That's them in the obviously it's her up in the tree with Leonard Nimoy. And I wanted to show really quick here.
And Nimoy looking over to see Charles Bronson saying, "You better keep your distance. No dice."
This is from that was her right there. That was her original husband there. David McCallum. I don't know if anybody knows who that is or recognizes him.
Oh my God. She was married to Ilya from Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yes. So she was married to him, right? And she dumped him. And I'm talking about right before this episode was filmed. She dumped him.
How did he dump that guy?
Here's how. Let me zoom out a little.
Yeah.
That's how.
No, I prefer the other guy.
Oh, well, I think she liked the bad boy look. But now you can see why Leonard Nimoy was a little intimidated having that watching him while he's kissing her during the kissing scenes.
Well, and at that point, had he already starred in The Dirty Dozen and The Great Escape by that point?
I don't know the exact years, but he was already headlining and starring in movies at the time. Like when he did Chattel's Land, where he's an Indian. So he was already a relatively headliner. I know he started out kind of obscure, but he was moving his way up. But by that time, he was already headlining. But I don't know if he was in the big movies yet. And it was obviously years before Death Wish.
Yes, Death Wish. He is not so strapping. He's got a little bit of the older now. With Jill Ireland, do you know she was in Man from U.N.C.L.E.? Any episodes of that?
I think she was. Jill
Nice.
Ireland was in an episode
Yeah, she
of Man
was.
from Uncle.
She worked with McCallum a few times while they were together.
Oh, because
I'm sure
they
he was
were
brokenhearted. She
together.
was a beautiful woman.
Well, and Great Escape was in
That's
1963.
really rude of her. He's cute.
Then it was
I
after the
like
Great
Elliot.
Escape then.
And The Dirty Dozen was 1967, so it may have been around this
Right
time.
around the same time as The Dirty Dozen was being filmed then.
What was the name of Ilya's actor?
David McCallum.
David McCallum, thanks.
Yeah, Dave McCallum, who's still around. He's on
Yeah.
some NCIS or some one of those criminal shows.
Cool. Well, thank you. That's really cool information. Yeah, and that makes sense why Nimoy was nervous seeing that picture of him. Bronson.
Right. Well, he was very. He worked out, so he was very buff. Just like we were talking about with Ricardo Montalban, they worked out heavy because that was he originally started out as a lot of bad guy roles until he started getting playing a good guy.
Yeah, and cool. Admiral Teague says the music in this episode sells the spore effects. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And
Yes, I agree.
Scotty did a really good rendition of the spore sound too.
It's anytime anybody falls in love on Star Trek. Except maybe City on the Edge. I don't think they use it in City on the Edge of Forever.
And Admiral Teague says, just getting drunk on alcohol has people saying the kind of things Layla says about spore intoxication. I love you guys. You are the best.
That's right.
Well, actually, I should be saying that. I love you guys. You're the best.
See? Spores. It's spores, Jill, I tell you.
I'm on spores today, yes. Admiral Teague says, Jill Ireland on ILIC, just in time for St. Patrick's Day. It's the luck of the Irish.
Diddly
Oh, yeah.
diddly dee potatoes.
Oh my gosh. Girl's Random Bot says Brave New World was. Oh, I can't even say those words. No, it was not. Brave New World is my favorite book ever. And only the movie said. We said.
Well, Gorilla got his hands on a pretty bad copy. Right, the made-for-TV movie,
okay.
right, that was not very well done.
Okay.
It looked like watching a disco drama.
Jeez. That's unfortunate because it is one of the best books ever. I don't really think it's been adapted to film very well yet.
No.
And I don't think it ever will now.
Yeah.
No.
And welcome
Yeah, no.
to Kronos. Hey, Kronos.
Hey,
He's here in the
Kronos.
chat.
Lemon.
Spock
Hail,
is
Kronos,
space.
good to see you.
Yeah. Spock is space drunk. Yes. Yes, he is. And also Captain Fandom Nerd is stopped by.
Captain Fandom Nerd.
If you come across a good thing, keep it a secret from the government.
Absolutely.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, we'll
if
take
they would have
it.
explained that in the
Yeah.
episode, that would have been helpful. I do agree with you, Scotty. I just you know. Admiral Teague says Starfleet would immediately ask Uhura to put someone on who wasn't stoned. Yes, they would, but at that point, everybody was infected. Lenron says percussive maintenance will always work.
Referring to tapping on the communicator.
Oh, is that what it's called? Percussive maintenance? I like that.
Yes, yeah, impact. That'll fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I had an old TV. It worked just fine as long as you use a screwdriver and just bang away on it. It'll come to life.
Oh my God. Admiral Teague says if I was hooking up with Jill Ireland, the one thing I would want is to record all the video on my tricorder. Spock's not thinking like a scientist.
Or
Right,
a porter.
Admiral, but would you do it with Charles Bronson staring at you at the same time? That's the question.
Scotty, what did you do to earn Kronos saying don't?
Oh, no, I was, when you stepped away for a moment, I was going to see about going through the chat, but you came back in the nick of time, and I wasn't sure. I was asking Pop Culture Curator for sort of second missile key to be turned, but I understand Kronos saying no, just because they're here for you. They want to hear you read the chats.
Well, it is always difficult, to
that hilarious Canadian
to decide whether or not you want to read the chat, because if you don't, then it's going to start to build up. I get it. I would have appreciated it. Canadian Spider-Man says, yeah, that not to. So if you're in Mexico, don't eat the Chinese food is the advice from Canadian Spider.
Also, we don't want to let the chat get constipated.
Which is weird because actually, There's a restaurant in San Antonio that's a really great Chinese food restaurant, but they have bad Mexican food at the same restaurant.
Where I live, I can't get good Chinese food. I haven't seen good chow mein in years.
Mhm.
Pork fried rice, there's nothing in it. It's just rice, nothing else. I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, there's no pork in the pork fried rice on
There's no pork
on this
there's no,
planet also because they
no
don't
piece.
have livestock.
Well, they used to have pork. They used to have like corn and other pieces of vegetables. It's just that it's terrible. It's
Mhm.
terrible. But
And Admiral Teague says the Brave New World book is much different than that terrible movie. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I never saw the movie.
Neither of
Girl
us.
is random thought says
Don't
Jill
bother.
telling me she loves me. She must be drunk. I'm on the spores. And hello to Captain Finity. Oh, a bit of that old Huxley. Hey, Joe. Yes.
Hail, Captain Finity. Good to
And
see
so
you.
I do see a bit of that in this episode, Huxley, with the spores and the soma. Admiral Teague says, "You only live once. Let's mix it up, Bronson. I've saw God before when I was with your girlfriend. I'm ready to meet him again right now, if that's how it goes."
It's all worth it. Let's go, Bronson. Put up your fist.
That sounds like you have a death wish.
Exactly. Death wish.
Hey, and Tony's here. Hi, Tony.
Hey,
He has
Tony.
a question.
Good
How
to
would
see
you
Tony.
feel about Saris being a guest star on Shore Leaves in the future?
Sarah's from
Shore
Galaxy
Leaves.
Quest?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah, why not? Yeah, Tony, you're always welcome on Shore Leaves. Definitely. Those are not always scheduled. Shore Leaves can happen at any time, but sometimes they'll happen on Friday. And Captain Infinity went to a fantastic Chinese restaurant in Shanghai, although it was just called a restaurant. And Canadian Spider-Man is going to go catch a plane. Safe travels, Spidey.
Yeah.
And Adam Teague says, I have Death Wish 4, actually. And all this Death Wish talk, that makes sense why somebody was mentioning. Dave Bob mentioned earlier that Marina Sirtis was on Death Wish 3.
And if you've ever seen the YouTube interview in regards to Marina Sirtis' time on that Death Wish movie, not a fun time. Not a fun time for her.
So then we get
I'm so glad to hear that.
Unless you didn't have a good time on the movie.
Right. After what she said about Texas, yeah, it does not break my heart at all.
No, if you heard what happened to her, then you would probably take that back. She was rather horribly sexually exploited.
I know. Yeah, that's the whole running plot of Death Wish. And in the first one is where we see a very young Jeff Goldblum.
Oh.
Ah, nice.
And Jill, we're missing the slides.
Thank you.
Cheers.
We're and just in time too, because this is the point where Spock leaves the communicator open so Kirk can use it like a homing device, and they find Spock hanging upside down from a branch, very much enjoying himself and very much in love. And I've heard people say that Spock ad-libbed hanging from the tree, but I've also heard that it was the director's idea. So at this point, I'm not sure. I need to figure this out. I'm not sure who came up with it, but all I know for sure is that it was not in the original script. It only came up once they started shooting on location. But I do remember watching this for the first time, and I was laughing hysterically seeing this for the first time.
Well, and so does Sulu. If you look at George Takei's response, he's like, look, oh my God. He's kind of bemused by Spock on the jungle gym.
If I could add, in the strip, Kirk first spots Spock and Layla kissing passionately by the stream. There is no scene of Spock hanging from the tree limb. The facet of the episode may have been made up on the spot. Indeed, director Ralph Sineski came up with the idea of Spock hanging from the tree on location when he found the tree in the spot closely to Bronson Canyon. Originally, the idea was to be shot on a clearing. Evidence taken from the deleted scene of Spock and Layla's presence near the stream appears in this episode preview trailer. So the preview trailers where you'll see them by the stream, but that was not in this actual episode itself.
Oh
Thank you,
man,
Steph.
I actually deleted the preview trailer. Otherwise, we could watch it and see it. Okay, well, it was on the last episode. So he takes, I guess, Kirk says that Spock needs to help with the evacuation, but Spock says there's not going to be any evacuation. He takes the rest of the group, the rest to a group of plants. So, yeah, he doesn't want to.
Jim.
So he takes everybody to some more plants, and everyone is sprayed with the spores.
Except Kirk.
Well, actually, he gets sprayed too, but he doesn't. It doesn't affect him the same way.
Maybe because his hand was in front of his face. Not last shot. I was wondering about that too.
I was thinking because he was agitated and frustrated with Spock not responding to his orders, and so the strong emotions that he was harboring would have made him immune at the time. That's me explaining it away, but I have heard the argument, but that's the way that I sort of reconcile it.
That works.
Well, if you'll notice also when the plants shoot out the spores, they land on those two crewmen's clothing on the right, and Kirk is even looking at them and sees the spores, and there's none on him.
Yeah, I think he got some of the spores, but not a lot, and the emotions that he has from seeing Spock do explain away what few spores, because spores spread, so some of them had to have gotten on Kirk, but not enough to affect him directly. So anyway,
you would think that wouldn't those plants just keep shooting and shooting as long as somebody was standing next to them?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's kind of like they would have to generate the spores if it is a sort of natural progression. They'd have one volley and then they'd have to regenerate over a course of time. Well,
it showed two plants spraying the spores and there were other plants surrounding them, so you think they'd all be popping off. I don't know.
Hey, I'm just trying to acknowledge what we see on screen.
I know, I agree.
Kronos asks, "Can he be drunk here?" And Lemon Pie, hey Lemon Pie, says,
"Hello, Lemon Pie. Good to see you,
Lemon."
Kronos, only if you fill out and submit the proper forms
in triplicate.
And Tony says, "I'll make sure my voice has endurance for it." Yeah, sure. I don't know what we're doing Friday, but probably not a shore leave this time. But I'll get in touch with you via email. Cavatino says, "Used to work in a chain restaurant where two of the cooks were Mexican. Similar situation at a Korean teriyaki restaurant."
Well, yeah, that's like Panda Express. They hire it. Yeah, like Panda Express, they'll hire anybody or everybody, whatever.
Mega Cropper says, "Is Spidey working for the Sinaloa cartel now?"
I don't know. I kept getting a phone call from Sinaloa yesterday.
Oh my goodness. What TOS episode?
They left a 20-second voicemail or voice message, which was just silence. Oh, well.
Wow. Kronos says,
Khan is watching.
Yeah, Kukulkan. That's exactly right. From the animated series episode.
Quetzalcoatl? Quetzalcoatl.
What TOS episode
had the spiky, shooty, flowery ouchies? That was the apple.
Thank you.
2 vows in Death Wish 4?
Everybody went through Death Wish apparently at some point.
Oh, yeah. Except for Kronos.
Except for Kronos.
Based on the star date, says Admiral Teague, this is days after they leave Khan on SETI Alpha 5. What a week on the Enterprise.
Ooh. Yeah, Khan would have preferred this planet over SETI Alpha 5, I'm sure.
Definitely.
A mellow Khan. That would have been fun. Star Trek 2 is no longer.
This is exactly what Khan and his Superman needed. And women.
Yeah, that would have been neat. Tony says, I want to do the Trouble with Tribbles emphasis on fun episode of Saving Star Trek with Admiral Teague. Cool.
That was a fantastic episode.
Mm-hmm. And Action Com, hey, welcome Action Com. He says this episode highlights one of Kirk's character flaws. He gets triggered whenever somebody challenges his authority.
Well, somebody in command would probably do that, I imagine.
Well, in this case, though, that actually is a strength because then he isn't affected by the spores because of his extreme emotions.
And hello, Action Com.
Hey, Action. And that also makes it so that had Kirk actually beamed down, there may have been tension between Sandoval and Kirk, and everything would have been fine anyway, except the Enterprise would be stuck in orbit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If they did what?
Oh, just if that is one of Kirk's character flaws in terms of being, whenever someone questions his authority, Sandoval does it later in the episode to McCoy. Mm-hmm. And so if Kirk and Sandoval had an interaction after being infected by the spores, maybe they themselves would have been relieved of the spores' influence just by being frustrated with one another as to who takes command of the colony.
Mm-hmm. That'd been interesting. Dalek says, a quick question for everyone. Who would tune in to watch me doing a stream where I'm driving a train?
I would watch that.
I'm hoping that's a game and not necessarily you taking a job as a train conductor. Although if you were to do so, I would probably watch the real life one.
Even more so the real life one. I'll be there. I'll watch the conductor Dalek. I've never seen a Dalek drive a train before.
Me neither. That sounds amazing. Lenrod says, depends on the time of day. I have 45 minutes left before work. And it's an idea. I've had to do a 3-part stream for my 100th birthday of The Flying Scotsman, says Dalek.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, great. So the pink flower plants are being beamed on the ship, and we see that McCoy has been infected. We know this is true because now he has a deeper southern drawl. And of course, actually being from the south, this could be his original accent or just an exaggeration of it. And it's really great.
It's a little exaggerated, but he did have a Western drawl in real life.
Mm-hmm. He did. And that's that also plays into the humor of the episode, which is really great. So Uhura completely sabotages communication so that Kirk can't contact Starfleet or Admiral Comac. The only communication she left in place is with the planet. Everyone else on the ship are in line at the transporter, waiting to join the colony since the ship was infested with spores. So... Cool. So everybody's committing mutiny.
Even Eddie Paskey. Mm-hmm. It's our man Leslie. Thanks, Leslie. Which is a cool interaction. This is mutiny, mister. Yes, sir.
Yeah. He doesn't argue it. It's true.
Yeah.
Pretty happy about it. So the thing is with Captain Kirk, the reason why the first time the plants don't work on him is because of his shock about Spock. But later on, it turns out to also happen because of his love for the Enterprise. And that extremely strong love is intense enough to combat the spores. And the book has something to say about it.
Okay.
If there's one thing James Kirk can't stomach, it's paradise. His passion for the Enterprise is all-consuming. No woman can hope to stand between Kirk and his ship. So what chance does an odd-looking botanical specimen have? The spore shooter does its best, showering the captain with a full charge of happy dust. But it only pacifies the captain for a short while. All it takes is a glimpse at one of his medals for bravery to create cracks in his superficially peaceful facade.
Who is that quote attributed to?
Paula and Block.
So it's the author of the book?
Yes.
I didn't take it as Picard not being able to abide paradise. Kirk? I took it... Kirk, sorry. Did I say Picard? That was my mistake.
Mhm.
Next Generation.
Yeah, that's okay.
But Kirk, I didn't take it as Kirk being like no one can stand between him and the ship. I took it as if he were to beam down, as he mentions in his captain's log, he was going to be they'd all be marooned on the planet. I took it as a matter of survival and escape that was making it so that he couldn't leave, not necessarily his desire for command or his love of the Enterprise. It was a matter of survival, and from what I gathered.
It could be a combination of the two because it
for
absolutely
sure.
was his love for the ship because
Right.
he's
I thought it was a
sitting
love
there
for
with
the
this
ship.
medal.
Yes,
Right.
That
in terms of
reminds
his
him.
duty, yes.
Right, his
Yes.
achievements and earning.
And so you're right then, Scotty. It's both because he has a duty not just to the ship that he loves, but also his crew who are
Yeah.
part of it.
That's how I sort of interpreted it.
Yes. But Paula and Block continues. She says, by the time he gets to the transporter room with the suitcase, the captain doesn't look like a man eager to spend the rest of his life tilling the soil, let alone abandoning the love of his life. Pounding his fist against the transporter controls, Kirk forces out 3 emphatic words. I can't leave. After that, the score is Kirk 1, Spores nada. The first draft of the script, reports DC Fontana, indicated that all the spore plants were located in the cave on the planet. One cave. Laughing, she said, well, obviously the characters will quickly figure it out. Do not go in the cave. And that is one of the first things I changed when Gene Roddenberry gave the script to me. I put those spores all over the place. And so actually, I read that. That should have been later in my review, but it brought up a good point, though. And Scotty, could you read this captain's log for me?
Sure.
Here.
Captain's log starting at 3417.5. The pod plants have spread spores throughout the ship, carried by the ventilation system. Under the influence, my crew is deserting to join the Omicron colony, and I can't stop them. I don't know why I've not been infected, nor can I get Dr. McCoy to explain the physical, psychological aspects of the infection.
Yeah.
And
So
that's where McCoy was like, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah, so we first see McCoy he's ready to make some mint and julep. That's a kind of drink.
Yeah, it's very big in Kentucky and in the South. In fact,
Now,
I think that's the main drink for the Kentucky Derby.
Here's the only the downside of that, and I would assume that it's because the sour mash whiskey would have come from the Enterprise, because it wouldn't have been possible for alcohol to be produced on the planet because you need yeast, which is an organism that eats sugar to produce alcohol. So unfortunately, even the beverages in this episode, not conforming to the science. That was another thing that popped up.
I guess,
Yeah.
bourbon, sugar,
That
water.
Yes, I agree completely. Although he doesn't say necessarily that it is alcoholic.
Well, then what's the point of having a mint julep if it doesn't have the whiskey?
I don't know, but you're right. So in this scene, Spock is pouring some tea as he explains the spores. It's impossible to say. They drifted through space until they finally landed here. You see, they actually thrive on the Berthold rays. The plant acts as a repository for thousands of microscopic spores until they find a human body to inhabit.
And I do have the blooper queued if you'd like to see that, Jill.
Oh, yes, please. Let's see it.
Yes, I have a blooper I'd like to share for everybody from this episode. If you want to see my complete blooper reel, please check out my channel where you will see the TOS blooper reel. So let's get started. Here we go.
And Elias says, in return, they give you complete health and peace of mind. And Kirk says, that's paradise? And Elias says, we have no need or want, Captain. And Spock says, it's true, Eden, Jim. There's belonging and love. And Kirk says, no wants, no needs. We weren't meant for that. None of us. Man stagnates if he has no ambition, no desire to be more than he is. And here's the blooper that Pop has.
Very short, abrupt, everybody. But here, right, very short. I hope you get the audio. It's going to be short and sweet, but here we go.
Unemotional. Super intellect, the plants act as a suppository. Unable to lose self-control under any.
And that's it. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you so much. I wanted to find that one so badly, and I didn't know where to find it. So I appreciate you finding it.
It's great.
Spock
There's 3 reels, and they cover the 3 seasons. So I recommend the blooper reel for everybody. You will find a lot of golden nuggets in there.
Definitely. And Spock was really supposed to say repository, not suppository.
Correct. And the lollipop is because he was a heavy chain smoker at the time, and people on set would usually do that while they were filming.
Mm. Oh, and hello in the chat to the Comic Relief Crusader. Great
Hey,
to see
Comic
you
Relief.
around.
Hello, Comic Relief.
And so, considering Kirk talking about man stagnating without ambition or desire to be more than he is, that's the part of the episode that has a similar message to Return of the Archons, leaving mankind sedated but unambitious, and progress stagnates. No growth or learning; they just exist, and that is it. And that was a great scene to think about. But apparently, there was also that blooper that we just saw. That's so great. I'm so glad that pop culture showed that to us. Thank you.
If it's okay, I just posted a link in the chat if anybody wants to check out the full blooper reels. And please sub to my channel if you like what you see.
Yes, definitely check out the blooper reels.
And I have information about this scene here in particular. Jill, do you have anything to say about it first?
Well, yeah, I do. Because Kirk, he returns to the ship, but he's all alone. And
How does he return to the ship?
Right, exactly.
Well, he did say didn't he say there were a few people still on board, or no?
Or were there still a few? Were there still a few?
It's possible.
They didn't show.
Yeah, they didn't show.
But
Kyle
he did show
was still around.
Right.
Kyle was still.
But I want everyone to get a good look at the bridge, and also especially the screens up at eye level, like on the right there, you'll see what looks like a kind of purplish nebula. And take a look at the 2 over on the left above where Hura would be seated. And keep that in mind, what you see right there. Do you guys know anything about what I'm talking about, Jill?
About the nebula and the planet?
No, about the bridge and how it looks right now for this specific episode.
Yes, they use this shot for relics in the Next Generation.
Can I show that clip?
Yes.
I have it edited together with this one. It's going to be a short one, but I'll make it fast.
Yeah. Oh, this is too much fun. I need somebody to go get my child from school. I want to stream for another 3 hours.
Oh.
No, I'm just kidding.
Can you Uber your kid?
No.
Transporter technology. We need it now. We need it fast.
No, I still have some time, but
I know. I'm just joking. And while that clip is being queued up earlier in the episode, when presented with the spore plant, Kirk throws it and it lands on the other side of the helm. But you'll notice in this shot, not there.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's where the spore plant being sentient would make more sense. And being able to move, having some kind of mobility. Also, the book, the Paul M. Block book, has something to say about it too. So oh wait, there it is. Here it is. Here's the video.
There it is with Kirk. You'll see right there. And
no bloody A.
And they blue screened Scotty in. And you can see they used a blue screen to get Scotty in. So they weren't able to build the entire set. So what they did is they blue screened it from that particular episode. They took a quick shot. You'll see everything matches, even the viewers up ahead. So that way, when they showed close-ups of Scotty and Picard, for example, sitting in the chairs, they only had to build a small chunk of the set. So you can see it's clearly a blue screen line around Scotty there. Thank you, Jill.
Yes,
appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for getting this clip. And this is one of my favorite scenes from Next Generation.
My favorite episode from TNG.
And the 365 book has something to say about it too. It says, viewers who have studied all 79 episodes of Star Trek know there are only 2 scenes that depict the empty Enterprise bridge bereft of personnel. The one that most fans think of is in This Side of Paradise, just a few seconds of footage that convey the sense of isolation Captain Kirk feels as he steps out of the turbolift and comprehends at last that his entire crew has deserted him. The other scene, briefer and less iconic, is the Mark of Gideon. It was the Paradise shot that the producers of Star Trek The Next Generation turned to when they decided to honor the original series by recreating Kirk's bridge for a TNG episode called Relics. The filmmakers quickly learned what a difficult task they'd taken on. The original bridge was long gone, and there wasn't even an accurately scaled drawing of the set to use as reference. Compounding the problem was the fact that building an entirely new bridge set for a single sequence would not be cost effective. Enter serendipity. The producers found the Paradise footage and used it as part of their blue screen process. That allowed the designers to build a smaller piece of the set that came with, in budget, a pie-shaped wedge containing the captain's chair and helm and navigation console, borrowed from model maker and longtime Star Trek fan Steve Horch. Oh my goodness. This one's a longer.
I should have included that clip from TNG. I feel sorry about that, guys.
No, that's great. Good work. So then we have Captain's Log, Stardate 3417.7. Could you read it? Who wants to read it?
Oh, Pop, go for it.
Oh, me? Okay. Captain's Log, Stardate 3417.7. Except for myself, all crew personnel I have transported to the surface. All crew personnel have transported to the surface of the planet. Mutinied. Lieutenant Uhura has effectively sabotaged the communication station. I can only contact the surface of the planet. The ship can be maintained in orbit for several months, but even with automatic controls, I cannot pilot her alone. In effect, I'm marooned here. I'm beginning to realize just how big this ship really is, how quiet. I don't know how to get my crew back.
I don't know how to get my crew back, how to counteract the effect of the spores. I don't know what I can offer against Paradise. It ran out of room and I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I love how Kirk says, how quiet. He says it says it softer than everything else he's saying.
Well, like a parent would with their kids gone. It's like, oh, how quiet the house is one of the first things they would say.
And when he gets hit by the spores in this next scene here, after he
forgot that he threw it over there, right?
Yeah.
Even though you don't see it in that last shot.
No, but it suddenly appears here. It's been hopping around. Earlier it was sitting in the seat.
There it is. Yeah, it's hopping around. Look, it's
Plant
following
with
him. Maybe it was following him, right?
Mm-hmm. And Kirk says, oh, wait, he doesn't say it yet. But he looks like he's ready to go. He gets hit by the spores, and it seems like it's the end of it. He calls and says he's going to pack, and he's going to join the colony. And he's packing up his green shirt and everything.
In his Samsonite luggage, circa 1960s.
Yeah, I did enjoy the suitcase.
And then he's going to pack this medal, and he's feeling nostalgic about it. And then he realizes that he's doing the wrong thing, because it reminds him of both his duty to the ship and all of the people.
And his love for the ship and crew.
Yes.
Looks like J.D. Lewis is taken off.
Yeah.
Take care, J.D. Lewis.
Oh, see you later, J.D. Lewis. Thank you for paying attention, Scotty. Cheers. I will have to catch up with the chat when we finish the review because I'm running out of time. This episode is too good.
Check us out the rerun, JD.
Yes, please do. So thank you for paying attention to that, Scotty. I think Kirk says, no, I can't leave. He's very relieved.
I can't leave. It's awesome. Shatner.
Yes, it's Shatner. Here's the whole thing.
Yay! Oh, is that the whole thing? Okay, sorry. Yeah, so I said that. No, I can't leave. And then I think he says, Captain's log, supplemental, emotions, violent emotions, needs, anger. Oh, then he says, Captain's log, supplemental. I think I've discovered the answer, but to carry out my plan entails considerable risk. Mr. Spock is much stronger than the ordinary human being. Aroused, his great physical strength could kill, but it's a risk I'll have to take.
Right. This is established in the first episode to establish that Spock is much stronger than us. Or
Super strong.
Yes. He convinces Spock everything is all right, and he just needs some help getting some equipment, and it works. And we get
and
one
explain
of the
to him that extra box that's on the side of the transporter for no reason.
and we get one of the most amazing insult speeches ever that I've ever heard. I love it.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you guys could, if Scotty could be Kirk and Pop Culture could be Spock.
Oh,
I like a little role play. I'm in.
Yeah, so
I'll do my best.
Oh, are you going to do it? Are you going to do it line by line?
Yes,
You're the best. Oh, my stars. Jill is directing a scene from Star Trek. This is amazing. Okay, so I'll say, all right, you mutinous, disloyal, computerized half-breed. We'll see about you deserting my ship.
The term half-breed, this keeps moving. The term half-breed is somewhat applicable, but computerized is inaccurate. A machine can be computerized, not a man.
What makes you think you're a man? You're an overgrown jackrabbit, an elf with a hyperactive thyroid.
Jim, I don't understand.
Of course you don't understand. You don't have the brains to understand. All you have is printed circuits.
Captain, if you'll excuse me.
What can you expect from a simpering, devil-eared freak whose father was a computer and his mother an encyclopedia?
My mother was a teacher, my father an ambassador.
Your father was a computer like his son, an ambassador from a planet of traitors. A Vulcan never lived who had an ounce of integrity.
Captain, please don't.
You're a traitor from a race of traitors, disloyal to the core, rotten like the rest of your subhuman race, and you've got the gall to make love to that girl.
That's it, damn it. No, just kidding. That's it.
Does she know what she's getting, Spock? A carcass full of memory banks who should be squatting in a mushroom instead of passing himself off as a man? You belong in a circus, Spock, not a starship, right next to the dog-faced boy.
Hey, I knew a dog-faced boy.
I am a dog-faced pony soldier.
Thank you. That was amazing.
And now not just Spock being happy. After all that. And there's that box on the. Can you go back to that last shot?
Yeah. Which
There's
one?
one more where it'll show. You'll see that there, that extra box on the side of the transporter, just so Spock can punch it.
Oh no, that's the chicken soup place.
No. I'm talking about on the side of the transporter console. There it's gone. There it is. See, it's got an angle. It's like a box attached to the side of the transporter control.
Let's see.
I don't see it.
Right there. Right under Spock's hand, his right hand. Look. It's
No,
attached to the console, the side of it. It's got a few buttons on it. It's only seen in this one episode for this fight scene.
I'll take your word for it. I thought it was just part of the podium.
It just disappeared in that last shot, is what I'm saying. It disappears in every shot except for where they're fighting. See, it's not there now. So it
I think
disappears and appears.
I thought it was just a different perspective.
Well, you'll notice that you won't see it in any other Trek episode. It's only there for Spock to punch, because he punches the he punches it second after he punches the replicator, I believe. Yeah, he punches the replicator first, and then I'm sure Jill has that part. I'll let her show.
Well, so we do have Kirk wielding the club, and then Spock goes in to do a downward strike on Kirk, who's holding up the club, and the club is bent because of Spock's superhuman strength. Spock grabs Kirk or punches Kirk, and he throws or gets him to fall against the wall with the food dispenser. Spock throws another punch, denting it, showing again his superhuman strength, and then punches him again.
That's where he punches the box that I'm talking about.
And that's what I mean. Is that it's perspective? It's just the perspective of the shot from the last one.
Right, but what I'm saying is he punches that and dents it, and then you won't see it in any other scene of this episode or the rest of the series. It's only there for him to punch in this one scene.
Okay.
So he doesn't punch. I'm guessing so that he doesn't damage the transporter. They have to repair it. The transporter prop.
Right.
And so anyway, the stuntman obviously wearing almost a Frankenstein head at this point. It really stands out.
So anyway, they fight. And they fight. And just before the nonsensical table that's on to the right of the transporter thing, because there's no reason to have that thing there. That's never there before or after in any episode. Yeah.
A table on a table. Because he took it off of a table.
Yeah.
That is true. It's just there. It's just there to be used as a weapon.
Well, and when he sets it down, he doesn't bend all the way over and place it down. He looks like he drops it, but there's no sound of it hitting the floor. So who knows?
But eventually, that's the end of it. Before Spock ends up killing Kirk, he's freed from the spores.
Yes.
And Kirk says it's not every first officer who gets to belt as captain several times. And Kirk has a suggestion for curing the rest of the crew. He asks Spock if he can put together a subsonic transmitter to hook into a communication station and broadcast. So the intense anger and the fight are enough to clear Spock of the spore's direct influence. So he sets up the communications.
Can you go back to that last shot?
Sure.
Where Spock's working on underneath. That's a Christmas tree stand. Right there in front of Spock. It's red and it's turned upside down.
Oh, hey. So it is. Well, I wouldn't even notice that. I really
Christmas
like
tree
the work
stand
under here. Looks great.
So do I.
So, Layla asks to go up to the ship. And I'm wondering here if some of the effects of the spores, they may be gone, but whether some of it's lingering somehow, because he's very compassionate here for a Vulcan when he's speaking to Layla. She asks well, he's very kind to her anyway. He's allowing his understandings of emotion to comfort her despite no longer feeling the love himself.
And this is directly from the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where she notices he no longer has emotions, just like Dr. Bennell did with Becky and at the end of Invasion of the Body Snatchers when they were in the cave. Exactly of this episode, exactly reminiscent.
That's neat. Because this is Spock's humanity here. He understands it, even though he rejects it in favor of being a Vulcanian. I love Spock just like Layla, except I don't need him to have any spores. So even though he's broken free of the influence, you can tell he's speaking softly to her, still with emotion, still that he knows that the love is there. The spores may be gone, but Spock's character has grown 3 sizes today. and
she's also cured at this point from the spores.
She is, and also Jill Ireland does a great job of going from just being all drugged up the whole episode to actually becoming a whole different character in the scene.
Yep.
She says, "I love you. I said that 6 years ago, and I can't stop repeating myself. On Earth, you couldn't give anything of yourself. You couldn't even put your arms around me. We couldn't have anything together there. We couldn't have anything together anyplace else. We're happy here. I can't lose you now, Mr. Spock. I can't. And Spock says, I have a responsibility to the ship, to that man on the bridge. I am what I am, Layla. And if there are self-made purgatories, then we all have to live in them. Mine can be no worse than someone else's. And so she realizes that she's lost the spores too, having experienced the strong emotion of heartache. And then she says, and this is for my good. Do you mind if I say I still love you?
And he doesn't respond.
You never told me if you had another name, Mr. Spock. But he does respond. He wipes away her tears, and that is that compassion. That's as much as he can give. And he says, you couldn't pronounce it.
Don't bother. I wanted to add, if I may, Jill Ireland was diagnosed with cancer in her right breast in 1984 and underwent a mastectomy. She wrote about her battle and became an advocate at the American Cancer Society, which led to the organization giving her its Courage Award. Ireland was presented with the award by President Ronald Reagan. Tragically, she lost her battle with the disease after it metastasized and died at her home in Malibu, California on May 18, 1990, aged only 54. She was survived by her husband, children, parents, brother, and extended family.
Oh, that's so young.
Yes. Yep, I'm older than that now by far, so yeah, it's terrible, tragic. She was a beautiful, vibrant woman. And Charles Bronson was there with her, I remember, till the end, very end. He was at her bedside.
And she did so good in this episode, especially considering she was sick. They thought she had measles at one point, but really she just had the flu, but she still came back to finish her scenes.
Yep. Which was after is where she appeared on the Enterprise, right? Those were the scenes they weren't sure if they were going to be able to film.
Mm-hmm. And she did great. And actually the look that she was sick actually really works really well, considering effects of withdrawal, maybe from being on spores for a long time. It actually works.
That's devotion. And that was like a microphone in front of Spock, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's in an odd angle. It doesn't fit with the rest of the equipment. Neither does the Christmas tree.
I was going to say, but the Christmas tree stand, that looks like some sort of sensor.
Well, they did have a Christmas party, so maybe that's just where they keep it.
Yeah, that's maybe her just stuck it into there, right?
Yeah, she's in charge of communications, but also during Christmas time in charge of Christmas tree.
Right. She's in charge of communications and office parties.
So then we see Spock is sending out broadcasts.
In reality, that thing would be flying all over, damaging the equipment if it was just laying in there.
Yeah,
it is made of lead, right?
So Spock sends out the broadcast that will act as an itching powder to all the rest of the crew to get on their nerves, which works for everybody. As everybody starts to snap out of it.
Well, in the establishing shot here, the camera shows a close-up of a metal shovel. And then when it shows the wide shot with the two men, they're both using wooden shovels.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but these shovels that they're using, they use to fight each other mostly.
That's why they didn't use metal, I guess.
Yeah, makes sense. And so everybody's fighting and losing the spore influence. And as they do, they ask to reboard the Enterprise, even when Elias snaps out of it.
I really love this take scene. Fighting with, but this is funny, right? It's what he says to McCoy, which upsets him. It's not an actual fight, and I love this.
Yes, me too. It's more of a verbal sparring because.
Like, what did you just say? Right?
Yeah, with the healing power of the spores, they don't need a doctor, so he has to do some other work, and Bones is not happy. So after that, once he snaps out of it, Elias says, "We've done nothing here. No accomplishments, no progress. 3 years wasted. We wanted to make this planet a garden." And So now he wants to relocate somewhere where he and the others can recolonize another world in which they can do what they originally set out to do. And McCoy says, well, that's the second time man's been thrown out of paradise. And
Kirk says no, which I like. Not kicked out, walked out.
yeah, actually, I was going to give you that. Here you go.
Oh, heavens. No bones. This time we walked out on our own. Oh, this is actually a really good Kirk cadence. No bones. This time we walked out on our own. Maybe we weren't meant for paradise. Maybe we were meant to fight our way through, struggle, claw our way up, scratch for every inch of the way. Maybe we can't stroll to the music of the lute. We must. This is more Zach Brannigan than anything else. Maybe we can't stroll to the music of the lute. We must march to the sound of drums. We haven't heard much from you about Omicron SETI 3, Mr. Spock.
I have little to say about it, Captain, except that for the first time in my life, I was happy.
Yeah, and I wanted to add, I'm wondering if that was a comment on religion, basically saying that if we would have stayed in the Garden of Eden forever, just, lovey-dovey and chilling and everything, we never would have progressed as a race.
Yeah, that was definitely a direct reference to the Garden of Eden pop culture.
Yeah, possibly.
But that there would be no progress made there without knowledge. And it was the knowledge that got him kicked out.
Yep.
Interesting. And this is one of my favorites, even though, yeah, it's mostly a character episode that, like Scotty says, gets some of the science a little wonky. But it's the presentation, the meaning that comes behind it, the question of what would you do if given the choice of paradise? Would you take it or would you leave it behind in order to accomplish something more worthwhile? Is the pleasure itself worth the loss of those accomplishments? And is it really pleasure if you're not really yourself or just experiencing kind of a false paradise? Once those spores go away, and you realize that you're not really as happy as they've made you and that it was all an illusion, do you want to go back? Or simply treasure the fantasy of it and continue with something more substantial? So that is the question that these spores ask. That, to me, that's what makes this episode so meaningful to me. The questions of the meaning of a life and everything, the universe and everything.
Yep.
And Captain Kirk answers these questions for himself and the entire crew. Kirk's job is to protect the Enterprise, and when we realize his love for the Enterprise goes beyond everything, his love for the crew and the Enterprise is so incredibly intense, more than we knew before, because it's been touched on before, but it's been increased here. The entire crew succumbs to the planet, but would they have actually chosen to remain that way if they had their true wits back? I mean, obviously not, because they joined Starfleet and they wanted to explore. But maybe some of them did want to stay. Nobody ever asks them at the end who wants to stay here. It would have been neat to see if there were some people who were like, yeah, okay, I'm not under the spore influence anymore, but I kind of still want to be. So surely there would be some people who would choose to sacrifice ambition for pure contentment, and many more people who might not want to be there for long, but who might just want a vacation there to heal their illnesses from the spores. And so I guess you would have to, ask these. My favorite Star Trek episodes are the ones that make me want more from the episode. And I definitely want a hell of a lot more from this episode. Not only to correct some of the science, but also to answer some of these questions and ask how this world will be treated further in Starfleet. They know it exists. Will they use it for medicinal purposes? Are they just banning being able to go here? So when Spock is freed from the spores, he knows that it's his duty to remain that way, whatever lingering feelings he has for Layla. And really, okay, so this, I might love living on this planet at first, but really in the end, it's just an empty paradise. And okay, so this might just be a character episode, but it's a completely relatable one. It's mostly a character episode for Spock, and also for Kirk, but mostly Spock. And if you're not really yourself under the spore influence, then can you trust yourself to decide that you want to remain under its influence? I love this episode because it shows us exactly why Vulcans have chosen to control their emotions. When they are revealed here, we also learn just how strong Spock is. And it is in fact lucky that Layla is there to bring out the intensely positive emotion of love from Spock instead of the more dangerous ones. So it's the alien nature of these spores and its effect on our alien first officer that makes this episode shine for me. And despite some of the nitpicks I have with the science, I give this episode an A+.
Oh, there's no arguing with that.
Oh yeah, there is.
Go for it.
And you may.
Ding, ding, ding.
I had a feeling.
I give it a B-, and the B- is there in spite of the not nitpicks with the science, the complete and total lack of it in terms of pollination, in terms of the operations of the Enterprise, in terms of the motivation of the people under the spores. I get the people who are on the planet, but what would even entice the people who are infected by the spores to motivate them to infect other people? There is no explanation in terms.
Well, wait a minute. They do.
Sure.
They do start sending up the plants, and the spores spread throughout the ventilation of the ship.
No, he's asking why would they want to spread the spores?
Yes.
What's giving them that motivation is, I'm high. I love the spores. What's making them want to infect others?
I can understand being. I can allow for the colonists even being manually pollinating, but no, it's in terms of any of the science on this.
Can you repeat that last point because I missed it? I lost my internet for a second.
Oh, sure. Oh, maybe it was me. But in terms of the motivation of the people who are infected by the spores, why would they want anybody else to be infected by the spores? As explained, the plants themselves feed off of the Berthold radiation, but there's no pollination or like in terms of cultivating the plants. There's no reason for anybody to be acting the way that they're acting. Why would Uhura sabotage the communication system? I get why everybody would want to go down and be on the planet, just because if you're all hippy dippy happy and it's like, well, we could stay in the fluorescent lights or we can go into the sunshine and the fields, but any of the motivation here is just so Kirk can build up to the fight with Spock. I love the interactions between Kirk and Spock. I like the way that McCoy sort of relaxes and gets his southern drawl. In terms of someone standing between the love of the ship and themselves, I think Scotty would also have a few emotional reactions the same way that Kirk does. Yes. But like, it is a great character episode, but if you are a fan of the science fiction in Star Trek at all, this one is just a hallucinogenic for no other reason than to be happy. And so I'm with Kirk. I cannot stay.
But if you are under the influence of some kind of spore, maybe it makes sense to have illogical motivations of not wanting to be in contact with Starfleet. Just because you're drugged, you don't want to be bothered. But even like a lot of times you get paranoid when you're on some certain substances, and so
doesn't seem to be a side effect of this particular infection or inebriation.
Yeah, that's true. But
much more believable in The Naked Time when they were unable to do their jobs based on the overwhelming emotions of the psi infection. But no, like I don't get why anybody is doing what they want. I get why Spock is doing what he wants, and I get how people who have beamed down already are doing what they want, and how they can be placid in terms of all we need to do is make food and then shelter. But in terms of bringing the rest of the crew down of their own volition, like what would even motivate them to do so?
Those are good questions. I would love answers to all of them.
Exactly. And that's why it drops it down from sort of this. I think it was someone earlier, it says this is sort of a filler, sort of a fluff. It is a filler and a fluff. It's a good filler and fluff in terms of learning more about our heroes. But in terms of justifying their actions throughout the episode, nothing. There is nothing here that motivates what they do.
All right.
Except for Spock.
All right. So what's your review of this episode, Pop Culture Curator?
I give it an A, and I do recognize it with the warts and all, and with the flaws. And I agree there's not much motivation. There may have been more in the original script. It maybe was DC Fontana may have room. Because like I said, I mentioned earlier that in the original script that they were supposed to be telekinetic. So that if that was in play, maybe that was a reason for them wanting to pass them along. But you're right, that could be considered a plot hole. But I do like the episode. Like I said, my opinion has changed since I was a kid. And I think it's good to see it's their analogy on the Garden of Eden. It's their analogy on the drug use of the 1960s. And pretty much lazy. It's like telling kids at home watching TV. If you just sit on your butt all the time, getting high, you're not going to really go anywhere. You're not going to have any ambition. So it was a subtle jab at the drug generation, which I thought was okay. It was a good way of doing it, and it was showing that there's a life beyond there, beyond that. Just being lazy and not having any accomplishments. I like the fact that I think it was a good casting. I'm glad Jill Ireland was in it. I think the cameraman and the lighting and all that was really exceptional. Even outside, they had a lot of exterior lighting just for her to highlight her character, which I thought was great.
Yes.
And I enjoy anytime we get an episode that's shot on exterior locations. It makes me feel good. I do like the bottle episodes where they all take place on the Enterprise as well, but it's still nice to see them out on set, on actual locations enjoying themselves. And I didn't get to see as much of the daytime and nighttime perspectives like we do in some of the other episodes, like Arena and Won't Lazarus, the alternative factor, obviously. Because at that point, you could tell on those episodes, you could tell when they were having long shooting days. You could tell when it was morning, afternoon, and evening. And that was not as noticeable in this episode. So it's for me, it's mostly, I guess, a lot of technical details. But I did appreciate the episode in general. And I'd give it an A. I think, and that's why the reason why for that is it's one of my favorite Spock episodes. I have to say, if anybody was asked my favorite Spock episodes, it was great because it established so much in the Spock lore. We also found out more about his mother and father, although they made it sound like they were dead here because Captain spoke in past tense. We actually found out later they're still alive, but basically the mythology that they really added thanks to DC Fontana for Spock helped a lot. But that's my review. Thank you,
That's
Jill.
awesome. What a great review. It's absolutely instrumental to Spock's character. I love it. And Paula M. Block has some words about this episode too. It was just a remaining bit that she has here. She says, finding extraterrestrial spores on one's planet usually is a bad thing. They may have traveled to your world to expand their grazing.
It is that time.
It is that time. And you're the blue plate special, as in the day of the Triffids. Or they may have come with some peculiar master plan that involves replacing you and all of your neighbors with a populace of look-alike emotionless drones, as in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But the non-native spores of Omicron Ceti 3 don't seem to have a malicious agenda. They actually make living on the irradiated planet possible, and they provide a nice bonus package. Feelings of peace, tranquility, and yes, love. The emotionless Mr. Spock initially experiences some painful side effects as the spores infiltrate him, presumably because he is engaged. He is engaged in a ferocious internal battle against all that force-fed sweetness and light. Once
Looks like
he
Stack
yields,
of Iron is
however.
leaving.
Oh,
Sorry, it just looks like
bye.
Tony's leaving.
Oh, bye, Tony. See you later, Tony. Great to see you here. Once he yields, however, he is as blissful as the rest of the colonists, and he seems to be genuinely regret being freed from their influence. The spores, once banished, leave all the colonists with perfect health, though they also seem to leave Spock with a broader sense of compassion. He is remarkably kind to Layla when he reveals that he can no longer love her. We sense that the emotion he experiences was genuine, but turning his back on that emotion is his duty, he explains, describing it as his self-made purgatory. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that's our review. We actually made it through the review, but we have 500 million chats that I didn't get to read. And Bet for Hire is here. Hello,
Hey,
Bet for
Fet.
Hire.
Oh,
Hey, good to see you, Pet for Hire.
And also Edge of Time.
Edge of Time.
Edge of Time. Hello, hello.
Ahoy.
Did you by chance mark where I was in the chat? I don't know. If
I
can
did. It is miles up.
Oh my
miles.
goodness. I see it.
Wow,
I
it must
found
be great to have help like that. Wonderful.
Miles.
Oh my. I can't do it like Raquel says it.
Let's see. It should be. Yep. It'll be
I
high.
found it. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
Okay, so McCoy is drinking booze by the time we catch up with him, isn't he? Yeah, but Scotty was
That's right.
saying, of course,
Mint
that.
julep.
Well, see, it's not. If it wasn't possible to create alcohol because there's no other insects or organisms, then it really shouldn't. The whole planet should be a barren wasteland. So obviously, this planet plays by some other rules we have no idea about.
And who's mowing the lawn, right?
Well, and then also, even with the effect of the spores, because alcohol is essentially poison that inhibits your functions, like it shouldn't be able to work based on the healing factor of the spores.
Yeah, and alcohol does produce some intense emotions just by drinking it itself, so that should break you free of the spores.
Bye-bye, James.
Oh, actually, that was in the original script, is that alcohol was going to free you from the effects.
Right,
of
alcohol was
spores.
one of the things, yes.
Mm-hmm. So now that makes sense to me. Admiral Teague says this episode is a better approach to the emerging counterculture of the 60s than This Way to Eden.
Yes,
Hey.
yeah, right. Not so on the nose, right?
Stop being such a Herbert.
That's the problem with that episode, Way of Eden, in my opinion. It's just too 60s. It takes us. It's not good. It doesn't date well compared to the other episodes, in my opinion.
I like Way to Eden.
I know there's fans out there. I understand there's fans.
Action Com has a great comment. When Kirk started packing his things, he started to see what he was throwing away.
Makes sense, Action Com.
Yeah, especially when he saw the medal.
Yeah. There was a beautiful scene when Kirk leaned over and there was that light in his face. Yeah, Admiral Teague says, the spores aren't enough. Bones needs the booze, too. They had bourbon when they got there and were aging it. It was only available at that moment, says Admiral Teague. That's his explanation.
Absolutely. But, yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure where McCoy is from. Bourbon's from Kentucky.
Yeah, did they ever establish if he was from Kentucky? Because mint julep is the standard for the Kentucky Derby. So
Action Com says it would be in character for Bones to send down a couple of cases of whiskey before leaving the Enterprise permanently.
I would accept that.
True.
Yes.
Yeah. Same here.
And the comic
relief. And Scotty too, if he was in this episode. Scotty would have. Yeah, Scotty wasn't in this episode.
Right. Or some of the green stuff.
Right, mm-hmm. It would be the green stuff, right? Oh, sorry, and brandy.
Aldebaran whiskey.
Oh, okay.
Who do you think got it for Guinan?
I gotta. All right, of course. Only intoxicated on caffeine at the moment. Me too, Lemon Pie.
Ditto.
And check out the blooper reels. Man, I'm that far behind.
Yep.
Okay, so if I miss your comment,
sub to my channel if you like it. If you like my blooper reels.
I gotta go through this quick. And Comic Relief Crusader is lurking, working on a project, getting ready for tonight's show on his channel. All right, his titillating Tuesday. And Tony says, no, it's wiped as in nuked. Guests on other shows only. Oh, right. Okay, Tony Stark's channel. Yeah, Tony Stark will be around. And I'm so glad he's around. Kronos says, no bloody A, B, C, or D. Yeah, I do miss Scotty in this episode. He does have the same love for the ship that Kirk does. And they could have partnered up on that love. That would have been neat to see.
But then it almost would have been a remake of Naked Time as well. Scotty taking care of the engine room, Kirk dealing with Spock to make sure that the rest of the issue could be resolved.
But I would have been okay with that because that's important to their character. Where the hell was Scotty?
He was infected by the spores.
Yeah, that would have been fun to see too. Dalek451 says, it does make sense. If it was only 5 minutes long, that scene would only be seen once.
Yes, in terms of the recreation of the Enterprise, the original Enterprise in Relics.
And apparently a holodeck and a replicator are the same technology. Oh yeah, that's a story for another a sequel to the original series. The Next Generation explores that topic. Action Com says, I was a child when I first saw the Kirk and Spock fight. I didn't understand it at the time, but now I know that Spock has strong feelings about having a human mother.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like anybody, he's going to be upset when somebody insults his mother.
Yes. And then we got some other insults in the chat
Yep.
because the chats are so the chat is so fun. They said, and your father smells of elderberries.
Nice.
And don't make fun of a Ferengi's mother. Oh,
that's a rule of acquisition, if I'm not mistaken.
And your father raids Barry Manilow's wardrobe. Says
Bender.
Better than Liberace's, I guess.
And Admiral Teague sees the box that Pop was talking about. And Tribbles.
He's talking about the microphone. He's talking about inside the console where you see the microphone.
We don't have Tribbles yet, Kronos, but we'll get there. Hundreds of years in the future, and they're still using TO3 transistors.
Yes, he's talking, inside that console under where her works.
For science, he predicts. For logic, has edicts. Imagine someone who looks this good while they're fighting off measles. Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Well, it was a flu. Honestly,
right. It was a flu. That's right. They thought it was the measles, but it turned out to be the flu, so she could come back.
I wanted to mention measles was very big back then. In fact, I got the German measles. And I almost died. I had to be put in an incubator and in the hospital. I remember that. So it was a very big thing back then.
Well, I'm so glad you're here with us today. I didn't realize it was so dangerous.
Yeah, I remember the incubator. I still remember, and I could have been more than 2 or 3 years old.
Mm-hmm. Kirk wins the longest string of cliched lines ever, but they're so awesomely performed.
Right, I would love to. You could tell he enjoyed it. You could tell he was loving and saying it.
Mm-hmm. And Captain Finity says, do you want to prop up a bar all day, or do you want to actually achieve something today?
Bar. I'll take bar.
That was, I know, I kept, in my review of the episode, why I love it so much, all of the philosophical questions it asks, and those questions could be a live stream of itself. I could have a live stream on the philosophy of this episode, and it could take its own 3 hours answering all those questions and not just running through them all and not letting anybody respond. Because I realized I was doing that to you guys.
Oh, no, not at all.
I was asking questions that, rhetorically, but not really. I really do want to ask them. And that's why I love this episode. For the ideas in the episode, even though I'll forgive the science when it has those kind of questions, that kind of thing where you ask yourself, what is the kind of world you want to live in? Pep for Hire says, this is one of my favorite episodes. Mine too. The "You belong in a circus" scene between Kirk and Spock is one of their best. And some of those lines are really funny when you first.
Well, it's a reference. Anybody, if you don't know, to what we used to have was called freak shows, which have long since been disbanded. So it's a little questionable that Kirk would be aware of what they were at some point, unless he saw it on another planet in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Who knows what you learn at Starfleet Academy for history
Right.
class?
A sideshow, right? For example, a sideshow used to mean the people inside the show. You go into a freak show, but a sideshow would be a different show here and then a sideshow there. But now people think sideshows are when cars are spinning around in an intersection in Los Angeles. And that's not where the term originally derived from. But
I was talking to Scotty about the difference between geeks and nerds, which is its own live stream also. But then he started talking to me about people chewing the heads off of chickens as being geeks from
yes, check out the movie Nightmare Alley. I highly recommend it.
Or Freaks.
Or Freaks, which I'll be covering on my horror channel.
Oh, and Tony gives it a B, and Admiralty gives it a B+ because there are better episodes. And yes, there are. Oh, speaking of better episodes, oh my god, the next one next week.
Ooh.
Oh my god. Okay.
Is it Devil in the Dark?
Yes, Devil in the Dark. I'm not even gonna lie. I won't be able to contain myself. It is my favorite original series episode, and I'm gonna have to bring something special next week.
Then I've got to have my Janos Prohaska video ready then for that. The guy who played the Horda. I need to have that ready.
Oh, great. And then Make the Time was supposed to be an alcohol substance. Captain Infinity says, no, the paranoia is caused by the fun being illegal. No substance and make you both content and paranoid. Yeah, okay. You're right, Captain Infinity. I was reaching because I love this episode. And I failed. Anyway.
You didn't fail.
I kind of did.
Well, it's funny because I remember there's a phase when people are getting high when they're young and they're just experiencing it. You'll go through one time you'll get high and you'll be like tired and lisp. Another time you'll just have a laughing fit where it's uncontrollable. And another time you're going through complete paranoia. So it's funny and there's always those stages and people are recognizing it. It's very hilarious when it happens.
Yeah. Admiralty thinks that this is how we have some insight after doing some shrooms, which some of the writers had obviously tried.
Well, they've been around for a while. In fact, they used to actually prescribe them to people.
Cavatino says Lila wanted Mr. Spock's special package, and unfortunately his shirt is not the only thing left blue at the end of the episode.
Ooh.
I wonder if they did make With the Love.
I think they did.
I think so too.
I think absolutely they did. And it's included in Kirk's insult. You had the gall to make love to that woman.
And I'll forgive it being outside of Pon Farr simply because he was under the influence of the spores.
Yes.
Over by the tree.
And Cannonball. That's right. You have the booze with the spores. That is a cannonball. From Caddyshack. But Cannonball Run is also a thing.
Yes, I'm really behind. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me.
Okay.
I could believe that workaholic Scotty wasn't around a spore dose, or he was so drunk he was unaffected. Oh, that's the answer, Admiralty. He was passed out drunk, and he was just in his quarters asleep this entire episode.
Right, the entire episode. Right, Kirk never thought about him. Right.
I don't, and it's I don't want to be rude. I just don't. A lot of people give that stereotype to Scotty of being drunk all the time. And while I know that he enjoys a drop, I don't think he's as drunk as people sort of play with.
I don't.
No,
think so
definitely
either.
not on duty. Right.
But that's the idea. He wasn't on duty this episode.
There you go. Right. A wee bout.
And Captain Infinity says, geeks read. They absolutely do. And Cronus says, nerds.
Nerds.
Admiral Teague says, why not harvest the spore plants to drop on planets like Aminar 7 or Charon? Oh, okay. I'm guessing those are planets that have some kind of plague.
Conflicts.
Oh, yeah. Conflicts. Oh, okay.
Chill them out.
Oh, right. Okay. Drop them on the Dominion planet. I don't know if spores affect changelings. Captain Infinity says, you must be getting poor quality shit.
I think he's talking about when I was explaining the phases of happiness and paranoia and all that, maybe.
Yeah. And Chrono says, Scotty works best while being drunk.
If you're talking about me, correct.
I don't know about Scotty on the show, though. Scotty's a workaholic first and a drinker second.
And that is Montgomery Scott, not me.
Yes. So, work, drinkaholic. Well, although that may be changing. I don't know. I'll let you talk about that later.
Yeah.
Okay, so I couldn't be more grateful for you guys reviewing Star Trek with me. We review the animated series on your channel, and you can do your horror stream and your Gilligan's Island and everything. So go ahead and plug your channel and let us know what's going on with you.
Thank you. I'll make it fast. I know you don't have a lot of time, but as Jill mentioned, we do Star Trek the Animated Series Mondays on my channel, and we'll be following that up because next week is our last episode, number 22, and we'll be doing the original Lost in Space series after that. On Tuesdays, you'll find me here on Jill's channel for our original series reviews, as you can see, and then Tuesday nights, like tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific, we're going to cover Creep Show on our horror sci-fi stream. Wednesdays, I will be on Gorilla's Random Thoughts, and I also post random videos about Trek, TOS, and other things. I also have a running stream called Rumblings from the Lab with open mic and open topic, where everyone's invited to talk about whatever they want. Thank you, Jill.
You're welcome.
And thank you, everybody, for listening.
And Scotty, plug your channel. I know I'm not like lingering like I should, but
no, not at all. And so on the Phantasmagorium show tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about The Dark Knight, the second in the Nolan Batman trilogy.
Tonight?
Oh, it is tonight. It is tonight because we just had Cat is available on Tuesdays now, and so it'll be tonight. Heavens, we're going to be talking about The Dark Knight, the second in the Nolan trilogy, and on Thursday night. Typically, Jill and I talk about Quantum Leap, and we have a blast doing it. But through the season 3 of Bald Spaceman, we are going to be talking about season 3 of Picard, where we have a conversation, which is a point-counterpoint. No pulpits, no real opinions being thrown at you, but we try and come to a consensus on what a few Star Trek fans think about it. Some of it good, some of it bad, but all of it with you able to take away your own opinions. So that's what we do on Thursdays. And if you check it out, we do also have reviews on all of the James Bonds and a mess of Tarantino. And then we just goof off sometimes.
I love all the Tarantino. I still haven't seen Jackie Brown, but
Jackie Brown's great.
I've almost completed watching all of him. So one of these days I will have seen all the movies from one director.
Yay.
So, yeah. Well, I would opine about Bald Man, but I'll say that for Thursday. And
thank you.
Well, it's not Star Trek, and I will see you guys next time. I have a preview for next Tuesday.
Beautiful.
So I'll leave you guys with that.
Thank you, everybody.
See if I can find it.
Cheers, chat.
Here it is. No, wait.
It was fun.
Wait, did I even upload it? I don't even see it here. Oh, no.
Next time on Star Trek.
Oh, horror tower. Right. You've got to be there, everybody. This is one of Star Trek's top episodes, Devil in the Dark.
I think I need to upload it.
Hang on a second. I might be able to help if I can get there quick. Let's race.
I have it here. It's just not responding. My open window.
Let me know if you can't.
Oh no, my computer's gonna crash.
Oh no.
Or at least my browser is gonna crash.
Darn Windows.
And I also still have my poll open. I can't open that because everything's crashing.
Is Troy driving?
Yes. Well, that means that Riker put her in that position to be driving when she shouldn't be. So
I don't care if you don't know how to drive. Grab the controls.
exactly what happened.
All right.
Oh no, actually, Scotty R37's explanation is that they needed a girl on the bridge.
She's like, finally, after all these years, I finally get to fly this thing. Now, which button do I push?
Oh, the incompetence of Starfleet officers. Hilarious.
Yeah, no, okay. I'm going to end the poll since my add video clip wasn't working. I'm going to try again.
If you're able to.
Oh, here it is. Okay, I'm uploading it. I got it. So I'm going to end the poll. And we get, and share screen, entire screen. I need just the live chat. Here it is. So the grade, we get 59% give it an A, 31% give it a B, which that's pretty fair. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And 6% give it a C, and 2% give it a F.
Uh-oh.
A D to
Looks
an
like
F.
Your computer's getting caught up all of a sudden there.
No, that was my mistake. Oh,
That's okay. It's right here.
we're good?
I mean, yeah.
Did you get to finish the poll?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did get it.
There we go.
Okay. I was confused. I was gonna let you if you wanted to.
No, I thought I was just queuing it up.
And Henrik's here right at the end.
Hey, Henrik.
Hello, Henrik. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. No, I gotta go. I gotta go because of children things. And
Yes.
Dave Bob says, anti-derivative Jill, go boom. And I did.
Just
All
drive
right.
safe.
I will. I will drive safely. I'm gonna call the store. Everything will be fine. And Henrik shows up here at the end to say one of my favorite TOS episodes. Me
You
too.
and I both, brother or sister, depending on who you are.
And so we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Take care. Peace.
Live long and all of the prospering. And where's the button?
Go for it.
There's the button.
I think I'll play mine.
Yeah, volume.
Yeah, there's no volume. So I'm going to play mine. It'll be fine.
Good color.
Captain's log, stardate
Was there no-
31.1. A distress call has brought the Enterprise to Janus 6.
When that creature appears, men die.
Describe it.
I can't. I only got a glimpse of it.
Ed shot it.
A good, clean shot. Didn't even slow it down.
Captain, we are being watched.
Almost as if he'd been thrown into a vat of acid. Strong enough to eat machinery? Strong enough to eat anything.
That murdering monster's in there.
You're going to stay here.